Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Breaking Bad Season 5, Episodes 1 through 8 overview. I'm here with...
AJ Talent, and like he said, this is our overview of the first half of season 5 of Breaking Bad. If you want to see our episode reviews, we made videos on that almost exactly a year ago. Um,
Yeah, pretty much. I think like a year around this time we finished Season 4, and I think like a little later we did Season 5, so
yeah,
probably should have looked that up before we started, but I didn't think we were going to be having this type of conversation, so
yeah. I
um,
just figured, in case people want to know.
yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, this is different from the reviews in that you hadn't seen, you were watching the show episode by episode.
Yep.
Um, when we did the reviews, here we both have seen the show already, so we're gonna spoil it and like talk about like, oh, this was foreshadowing for this. And to prove that, spoilers: three, two, one. Wolf dies. I thought you were gonna say it with me.
I was gonna actually say Hank finds out. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
why
that's
I didn't want to say it at the same time because then it leads to like that weird thing that it's like one of those things where you thought I was gonna say something, and then I thought I was gonna say something. I wasn't in the mood for that.
yeah.
So
It's like we even finish each other's bananas, like some shit like that.
yeah.
Oh, and that was too awkward. I can't make videos anymore with you. I know we're cousins, but like I can't associate myself with you anymore.
I know, yeah. But anyhow,
Don't go to any more of the family gatherings.
so obviously, the thing that makes this season special to us was this was our first time we reviewed like a whole season of Breaking Bad because you came in like midway through season 4. So
Yeah,
this
not
is
even midway. I came in like the last like 4 episodes.
yeah, pretty much. And we pretty much was starting to do videos around that time. We figured out just to do 3 episodes of anything in one video.
Yeah.
So
Except for this season, we did do like the big moments or the big episodes, as one review, which
yeah.
was handy in me having already seen the show because I already knew like, okay, this episode's important. We do that by itself.
And we're really going to talk about that when we do the next video, because the next video, like, we had to do seasons 4, 5, no, not 4, 15, episodes 14 through 16 is all one video. Good. And you caught that, like, right before we were going to start. Like, wait a minute, because could you imagine if we did, like, 13, 14, and 15 all in one review? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Because spoilers, at the point where we stop here, Hank finds out.
yeah. Which I already said, so it's not really much of a spoiler now. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's get to talking about this. So pretty much this actually legit is like the midway point because there was a mid-season finale, and obviously they took a break and came back like in 2013, like in the fall. And this is where there has to be those people because some people call like the second half of this season 6, which is
And
like
and just secret between me and you, they're wrong.
yeah. There has to be those type of people that try to ruin that, and then
No, it's season 5.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah. But one thing we're gonna say, we're gonna talk about it now. Just get out of the way. It doesn't tie into anything up until like the last like 3 episodes of the season really. When the season opens up, it opens up right away with Walter in the future, and we know something has happened throughout the season that's caused Walter to pretty much, because we find out at that point that he has his name changed, which means he had to go into hiding pretty much. He buys this car that has a like an RPG in it. And we know he's gonna do something with it, but we don't know what he's gonna do yet.
And actually, he buys the gun from the same guy who he bought the gun from before. When he tried to kill Gus.
Yep. So
That's a nice little tie-in.
yeah. So pretty much we know something happens that like causes. And Walt, by the way, does not look like in good shape, obviously, because his cancer had relapsed.
Yeah.
Like,
but we didn't know that yet. And you think, oh, maybe his cancer's fine because he had full head of hair.
yeah. So, I think it's a nice like it was a nice way to kind of like start the season because they always do like the cold opens, and I feel like it was a good way to kind of say what's going on here. Something clearly is wrong here. we find out that Walt was in hiding. They kind of tie in that Walt was in hiding in New Hampshire because they say it, when he's talking to like the waitress there and stuff like that. And I think it's just a cool scene. You said that's a cool behind the scenes kind of thing about it that you want to touch on because you don't get to talk about.
I know.
Much.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I'm normally not the guy who does the behind the scenes stuff. That's normally your thing. But from what I heard, they hadn't fully planned out the ending. Like they didn't know like what was going to do. Like when they had the gun, like Vince Gilligan was just thinking like what was going to go like a Rambo, like just go in guns blazing, shooting people,
Yep.
And but I do like how they ended up making it like, oh no, Walt used his brains to his advantage and like built the gun into the car to like shoot in the building.
Yep. That's right.
So it's funny how we didn't know that Walt was going to go kill Jack, and neither did the creators.
We didn't even know who Jack was yet. So
yeah. But they worked for having it not fully planned out. They worked it pretty good.
I know, yeah. Which was practice for them for Better Call Saul because pretty much they're basically, if you think about it, they basically have to like go back to the Breaking Bad scripts to make everything in Better Call Saul, not just in Better Call Saul make sense, but they have to make Better Call Saul make the whole Breaking Bad universe make sense.
Exactly. Normally I say don't make shit up as you go along, but in this case, it worked out pretty good.
I know, yeah.
But they didn't make it up as they went along, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So then the episode actually like starts off. It's like right after the events of season 4, which was really cool because I feel like it was nice to kind of have like some closure in a way of the aftermath of Gus's death. Walt realizes right away. Actually, first I like it too. Walt has to go home and clear everything out of his house pretty much and like hide everything from like when he made the bomb in the Lily of the Valley. And he realizes that even though they burnt down the super lab, they realized that since they had cameras on them, the cameras clear. The footage goes somewhere, whether it's via tape or it goes like on a computer or something like that.
And obviously, like we as the audience know it's Gus's computer because we've seen him looking at it. But obviously, like Walt and Jesse don't know that.
So I really like this scene because Mike finds out that Gus has died, so he's just in a rage. He's just driving. He's still injured too from being incapacitated from the last season. Yeah. So he's just.
By the way, before that, I do like how when we first see Mike, he's like just feeding some like roosters.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Hey, share. I won't give you any." And I think he gave one of them like a name.
Yeah.
And, honestly, that's like the first time we've seen Mike just be normal. Not like stone faced.
Yep.
So I think that was really nice, and it kind of shows. Because we hadn't seen him with his granddaughter yet, I think.
I mean, we have, but not like
not a lot. Like, yeah. I don't know, it's just I feel like it kind of sets up that this season we're gonna see a bit more of like Mike not being like Gus's right hand man, because most of the time when we've seen him, he's very just like stone faced, no emotions.
Yep. So yeah, he's just freaking out. He's ready to kill Walt, and throughout this whole season, up until like Mike's death, Jesse's pretty much playing peacemaker between Mike and Walt.
Yeah. He's a lot of people point that out. Like Jesse's basically like their son. Like Jesse sees him as father figures, and they see him as like a son.
Yeah. So Mike and Walt a lot in this season. Fighting and just consistently arguing with each other, but just inconsistent disagreements. And Jesse's playing peacemaker, and Mike was gonna kill Walt, like just shoot him dead. And the only thing that really stopped him was Jesse. He said, "If you kill him, you're gonna have to kill me too," which is pretty cool. And
shows Jesse's loyalty. Also, I like how when Mike's like angry driving back to America, like Walt and Jesse are like driving to him, and they like stop, and Mike, as soon as he sees them, gets out of his car and is ready to shoot.
Yep.
But I do like how they were like, okay, we got to go get Mike.
Because he obviously would know where the footage is being, held. And
they tell him, and when Walt's holding Mike at gunpoint, he's super chill. He's like, "May I speak?" You know, like he's just super like doesn't give a shit about Mike's problems.
Which is kind of funny because if you, like I said, season one, Walt would not have like, he would have like been on his knees begging for his life.
Yeah. So it's like one of the, this whole episode is just showing Walt is not this, crawl space changed Walt forever.
So yeah, they're gonna go try to get the laptop, and doing this is happening. Hank and the Gomez, your favorite character of all time.
R.I.P. Gomez, my boy.
They see the destruction of the super lab, and Hank notices like one of the cameras that had been destroyed. So they get to the laptop first, and Mike calls the laptop where the laptop's being held up, and pretends to be like a police officer just wondering what it is, and breaks his phone.
Yeah, I think he just he's like pretending to be like a security, like, oh hey, I just need to know if you have this or whatever. And they say, yeah. Mike just immediately hangs up, breaks his phone. He's like, yep, we are fucked. He doesn't say it like that, but he's like, yeah, we're boned.
So we find out that it's pretty much in police version of storage, pretty much, where all of like the evidence room, where all the evidence gets put, and it's guarded by cops 24/7, and the building's pretty much indestructible. So Mike and Walt, really Walt's trying to come up with all these ideas, and because Mike's been a cop, he knows like he's just shooting down all these ideas. Yeah. And
Walt was like, let's build a device, and Mike is like, okay, you want to kill a bunch of cops with a bomb, because like Walt is like defending himself, like, I didn't say build a bomb, but for Mike, can you really blame him for assuming Walt was gonna make a bomb? Because he set up a bomb in a retirement home,
And I really like this scene because Jesse's in the background suggesting a magnet, and I really like the way they shot it because like they fade away Jesse's like where Jesse's sitting, and you just hear him saying, "What about a magnet?" So he's kind of like, so I really think that's kind of cool. And
it's like exactly like Walt and Mike, they're not really paying attention to him.
And they eventually hear Jesse's plan and say, "Yeah, what about a magnet?" Which they pretty much go to buy the magnet.
I do like the look Walt gives when Jesse says that. He's just like, "Oh shit, that might work."
I know, and I think like that's something we should talk about too. Like the first half of the season, Jesse actually is very resourceful and very smart. Like versus
pretty much comes up with most of the ideas,
which is really cool. Because in season one, it was Walt, and even before that, it was Walt coming up with all the ideas, and Jesse was kind of like the goofball junkie kind of.
Yeah, he was like the sidekick, basically.
Which is really cool. And they test out the magnet. And when they actually go to the evidence room, Mike doesn't think this plan's gonna work at all. He's trying to like protect Jesse by having him, just skip town. But pretty much though they need Mike to like because he knows the evidence room area, because he knows like where all the cameras would be and everything like that. So when they actually go to the evidence room, they turn the magnet on, and they have the magnet like hooked up to a like a U-Haul, and they have like a ton of batteries. It's like 1200 voltage of it, so that way it makes it really powerful. And
before that, when they went to the junkyard to get the magnet, we see the guy who who owns the junkyard. He shows up again in El Camino. So it's cool to see him. I do like them planning the magnet. Like Mike is like super just like doesn't believe it's gonna work.
Yep.
And then the laptop gets socked against the truck. And,
yeah, that was cool.
We get the magnets, bitch, which is one of my favorites of Jesse saying bitch.
Yep. And pretty much the plan works. They destroy the laptop, but the problem is like it was one of those things where the plan probably worked, but Walt like wouldn't let it go. He had to make sure he got it perfect, so he puts it up like full blast and leaves the evidence behind, pretty much like the truck that they were driving.
And us as the audience, we know that it's a good thing they stayed longer because they needed that to suck the laptop. But it's funny because, like, to them, they have no idea they needed to stay that long.
Yeah. But you know, Jesse's feeling really confident, and Mike's just like, so what makes you think that this just worked right now? And he's going through like everything, like making sure all the evidence wasn't left and all that. And Walt is just fully confident that it worked, pretty much. Like, it's pretty much, this is Eisenberg at this point. Like, the way he's talking and everything. Like, Mike's like, what makes you think this worked? And he said, because I say it worked. And this is when like Jesse and Mike are both getting concerned, like, is this the same guy that we've been dealing with since the beginning? Well, for Jesse's sake, since the beginning of the show. So they notice that there's a change in Walt.
And this is probably my favorite first episode since season 1, because I remember I thought this was 2 episodes when we first went back to review it. I'm like, no, this is just a really action-packed first episode.
Meanwhile, as all this is going on, Skylar is also doing stuff in this episode. She's afraid of Walt because she realizes that if Walt's capable of blowing up a retirement home, what else is Walt going to be capable of doing?
And also, like, she says it later on in the season, but Walt fully expected some people to come to their house and murder him,
Yep.
So she's like, well, that could totally happen again. And she's not really wrong.
Yeah.
Because, later on in the season, people come to the house and threaten to kill their baby.
Yeah. So then Skylar, meanwhile, they wrap up our favorite storyline, that Ted storyline. Because they had to do something with it. And we find out that Ted didn't die from the fall. We find out that he pretty much just knocked him out and he's paralyzed now. And, obviously this is worrying because, we're afraid, we're meant to think like Ted's obviously going to say something. So,
but he's just like terrified. He's just like, listen, I will not say anything.
Yeah.
So that probably had an effect on Skylar too. Like, she did something that made her former boss and boyfriend like fear her.
Yeah, and pretty much like made it so that way like he was. I don't think they say he's permanently handicapped or permanently paralyzed, but he's going to be paralyzed for a while. Like
I think the doctor said like he's making improvement, but like it's still going to take. If you saw him, it's going to take a while for him to bounce back.
Yeah, like it was so bad they had to like shave his head. That was that bad. Like
yeah. And also, I mean, I know I shouldn't say it's funny, but like he really did just like trip on like something and smack his head against the counter, and then he just fucked up his whole life.
I know, yeah. So that,
I mean, I don't know. It's Breaking Bad has its dark humor.
So you could make the I think Skylar feels 2 feelings. Like the first feeling is definitely like obviously like guilt. Like it's because of her that like she messed up Ted's whole life and now he's afraid of her now. But also you could say like the Mrs. Eisenberg like feels pride about that. Like she feels like a little bit powerful that someone's afraid of her too.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cool thing. But yeah, this pretty much sends Skylar like in a huge depression, really for the rest of the season, but like in a big depression, like almost Jesse level, throughout like the first like half.
I like how he gauged depression. Like, all right, like top tier is Jesse level. Like you can't get much more depressed than that.
Yeah, well, it was bad. So.
Oh no, it was pretty bad.
I feel like the only thing like I mean, honestly,
Walt in The Fly is levels of depression is also pretty high up there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because Walt wanted to, just die at that point.
Yeah. The only thing that kept Jesse and Walt going was the fear of their lives with Gus. Like I feel like they would have been in Skylar level where they wouldn't have gotten out of bed or anything like that. So.
Yeah, really.
But this ties in because later on in the episode, Walt and Saul are talking, and Saul's trying to explain himself about like
why he let Skylar take the money.
And you notice Walt's like in a different zone because he's not responding or anything like that, and he's pretty much just Saul's trying to talk himself out of it, and he's pretty much just calling Saul out on his shit, pretty much.
Yeah.
And we find out that, I mean, we already knew that, like, Walt had poisoned Brock, obviously, but we find out that Jesse, this is like the episode where we find out, like, Jesse pretty much figures out what happened, because we find out Saul really did have Huel lift Jesse's cigarette, because he actually shows up and has it, and he's even like, you know, he's Saul pretty much is sick and tired of going the extra mile for Walt, and he pretty much tries to end their partnership. He has him take the cigarette and leave, and then Walt just furiously gets up, gets in his face, and says,
not even like furiously. He just like walks over slowly to him,
and he says, "We're done when I say we're done," and just that, the look of fear that Saul had on his face, and it's. We talked about it when Saul blackmailed Walt, that Saul really blackmailed himself, and this is when Saul realized, like, he can't get out of this now, pretty much.
Yeah. I do like later on this season, when it's Saul's last scene when he's going to hiding, we get a call back to this scene where Walt tries to do the exact same thing, but Walt doesn't have any power anymore, so he can't really do anything.
Yeah, and he coughs, pretty much. Which, you could say that him coughing after that really showed, like, how much power he really lost and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like I said it before, but I think Heisenberg died in the desert with Hank. So really, that was Walt trying to be Heisenberg and failing.
Yeah. So I do really think that's cool. And I actually heard they did a deleted scene, like, back in season 3 when Saul said that to Walt, but it's a deleted scene, so we never saw it. So I kind of like that we didn't see it because, I feel like we wouldn't have felt the same emotion, if we had seen Saul say it to him. We would have been like, see, it's Saul getting his revenge now, which you could still say is true. Without spoiling anything, I do gotta ask you, seeing this scene, watching Better Call Saul, how does it feel to see, like, Saul get threatened by Walt after seeing
it? It really sucks, just seeing Saul be so in over his head,
Yeah. And then
he dug his own grave, but still.
Yeah. And then when Walt goes back to his house, he sees Skylar and talked about the Ted situation, and he hugs Skylar and says, "I forgive you" to Skylar, pretty much. And you just see that, like, fear on Skylar's face when Walt hugs her.
Like, all the shit that happened, and Walt just saying to her, like, "I forgive you."
Yeah. And we talked about it, like, pretty much now Walt just feels like he can't do no one now at this point.
So, just full on Heisenberg. Like, Walt died in the crawl space. This is Heisenberg time.
Yeah. This is one thing I loved about season 5 too. A lot of, like, you saw, like, a lot of dark imagery, like the house got, like, darker, really showing that he was Heisenberg. Like, there was a lot of dark lighting and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. And
pretty much Walt's always wearing, like, all black now.
Yep. So then it ties into pretty much the rest of the kind of the rest of this first half of the season. The first 2 episodes, well, I mean the next 2 episodes about them kind of, like, getting the business back up again. So this next thing we got to talk about is pretty cool. So they kind of tie up the Jesse thinking he just lost the cigarette thing, which is kind of cool, which is so cool for Walt to do this. Pretty much what happens is Walt just takes, like, a salt shaker and makes it look like it was just rice and that had been, like, crunched up, and he just buys another cigarette, and when he goes to Jesse's house to look for it, he really just what I'm gonna guess happened was we find out later that it's in, like, the dustbuster thing.
Oh, the Roomba?
Yeah, the Roomba. And what I'm gonna guess happened was Jesse had, like a stack of cigarettes just hanging on the floor, maybe, and Walt probably planted it there, and it just vacuumed it up.
Yeah. So Walt basically just planted it in the Roomba. So when Jesse finally looks in the Roomba, he's just super quiet and like, oh my god. And then Walt's like, here, I'll get rid of this. And we think he flushes in the toilet. He actually doesn't. He just, goes to the bathroom, flushes it, probably puts it in his pocket.
Yeah. But actually, though, we find out before he went to Jesse's house, he stored the real rice in um, like into one of like the power plugins, and he just taped it to it, and which is pretty damn resourceful because no one's ever who's gonna think to look there for it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
um,
I mean, the police didn't, after his house got, emptied.
yeah,
But I like how well Walt is like talking in the background. We just see like Jesse like slowly get like redder and like start crying.
yeah,
And he's like, and then the first thing he says to Walt, he's like, "I almost shot you. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, what's wrong with me? You know?"
yeah. And
And you
this
can
is just
feel, and you can see Walt like feel kind of bad for lying to Jesse like this.
yeah, and this is really sad because Walt is manipulating Jesse so much where he's making Jesse feel guilty about almost killing him when he had every right pretty much to do so and stuff like that now, and he's just playing with Jesse's emotions and stuff like that. Um, and I like because Walt even says we're gonna get back on we're gonna move forward now. We're gonna get back to cooking, and Jesse just has this look on his face like with in disbelief, like what?
Yeah,
Like
like after all this shit, you want to continue.
yeah. Um. So they go to Mike, and I'll let you talk about this scene with Mike because
Yeah, they go to Mike. I don't know how they found his apartment, but they did, and or his house, and they try to talk him into being basically what Jesse was at the beginning. The streetwise the distribution, and Mike is like firm, just like nope, I'm out of the business. I'm not doing it. But when they keep pressing him, Mike says, "I'm sorry the kid here doesn't see it, but you are a time bomb, tick tick tick, and I have no intention of being around for the boom." And Mike really should have stuck to his guns here.
he was around for the boom.
Yeah, like this and the half measure speech really just like amp up Mike's death for me. It's already great, but like this makes it like next level.
So
But I do like how afterwards Walt is just like okay, and like Mike hates Walt, but he has to shake his hand to like be professional.
I know, yeah. Um. And meanwhile, as all this is going on, one thing we forgot to talk about. So after the events of the evidence room, the police were going over like all the evidence that had been destroyed, and they see a picture of Gus, and they notice that there's like a description of like a bank account that he has. And we find out this episode's called Mandriel, and we find out that there was like how many was it originally? Because I know a couple of them died. Like I think it was
10. I don't know. Okay, there are 10 guys in prison, 11 including the lawyer.
yeah.
I don't know beyond that.
I'm just gonna say 11, and we find out that they were like working along Gus, and Gus was blackmailing them by giving them money enough to provide for their families and such.
Yeah,
like,
it was 11 because remember the guy who Mike shoots, he only killed Chow.
yeah. So
So it was 11 in total. He got killed, so it was 10 in jail, and then the lawyer got caught. So back up to 11.
okay. Originally it's 11 though before the lawyer and everything happens.
Yeah.
So we find out that they're pretty much being they were like blackmailing Gus to give them money, like enough money for that to support their families. Like I think it was like every month, they would get money, and what we see earlier they're in Germany, and one of the guys is about to get arrested, so he panics and electrocutes himself in the bathroom pretty much, and kills himself, and behind the scenes, they really didn't go to Germany because it's a pain in the ass to fly all the way to Germany just for that one scene.
Exactly. At that point, like, no. So
Well,
yeah, they just like you said, they went to a mall and they just like changed the signs to like German.
Yeah. And like when the guy falls to the floor, it was just really a stunt double, and they put like plastic tile on the floor because I don't think you want to fall on hard tile even just for an acting.
Like directly on your face.
Yeah. And I'm obviously I forget what they obviously the getting electrocuted was obviously a setup too, but I feel like I don't need to say that. Like I don't think I have to say, oh, the guy really didn't get electrocuted. You should know that for yourself. Yes. Like
really when Walt shoots Mike in the stomach, I thought he really shot him.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought he was like Jonathan Bank was that committed to the role, you know?
I know, yeah. Can you imagine someone just being that committed to their role where they just literally are just fine with taking a gunshot like that? It's just, yeah, why not?
Right. Like, look, we need to make it look realistic. I'll do the
Uh,
scene and then just quickly take me to the ER.
yeah. And imagine too they fuck it up and still shoot like they fucked it up and the wall had already taken the shot and they can't redo it. That's a go in as is.
Yeah, that's
Like Walt Trips or something. Um,
yeah, that'd be pretty great.
but any
The show ends right there.
right. Um, but anyhow, I mean the only one that really was committed to their role was Aaron Paul because you know.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Paul again. It was just like, you know, it's like who can beat the shit out of Aaron Paul this episode?
Notice, either way, this season, Aaron Paul takes no beatings. I think he was like, yeah, I'm not taking any beatings this season.
Yeah, like Breaking Bad, I love you, but I'm not going to the hospital again.
Yeah.
It's like Tobey Maguire, and we are going to watch the Spider-Man movies eventually, but people like kept accidentally beating the shit out of him.
Oh my god, that's great. So I wonder if
like there's one scene where people are like hitting him in the side of the head with like a bag because he dropped some papers. And one guy accidentally wrapped the bag around him by accident and like dragged him.
Oh my gosh.
Oh god. So when we watch that movie, that'll be fun.
But anyhow, meanwhile, back to actual the actual show. So the DEA is finds out that this situation happened, and I actually didn't notice this when I first watched this because you're thinking nothing of it. Lydia's like in the room and she's just in the background. Then the next scene, we actually see Lydia and Mike are meeting at like some diner. You find out Lydia's very high maintenance. She likes to have like a fancy drink when she goes to like a restaurant, and she has to stick. And they taught, and this is like a little thing. You really notice like she actually like uses the stevia. You actually see her doing it, and then we're like, yep.
Yeah, she keeps every time she goes to the restaurant, she asks the waitress for stevia.
Yep, and she has her own, and yep, probably should have left that at home one day. So
that was the tie-in, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we talk about this because when we first reviewed the episode, I can't be like, oh, stevia.
Yeah. So now every time I see her do the stevia, I'm just like, yeah, you probably should stop putting. Can you imagine, by the way, that day, that was like the one day she didn't put stevia in like her drink? Like,
I know, right? This show I never tried stevia. I probably will never now.
Yeah. So Lydia pretty much knows that these 11 guys, she's afraid they're gonna cave, and she wants Mike to do something about it. And obviously she's implying, that Mike goes and kills them. But Mike says, I even like how he says, this isn't a movie. You're not just going to go shoot 11 guys randomly out of nowhere. And he says that they're solid. They're not going to talk. Obviously we knew this was going to tie in because Lydia didn't, take it too well. But I really like that scene. It was Lydia's first like real scene, and it's kind of funny because in real life the actress like doesn't have an English accent and stuff. She does, and I think it's kind of cool that she was able to speak English perfectly here, pretty much. Later on, Mike is playing with his granddaughter, and actually, no, that's not what happens next. Mike actually gets investigated by the DEA first. You want to talk about that scene when he gets investigated by like Hank and stuff like that?
Okay, yeah, sure. So Hank is like interrogating Mike, asking him about Gus, and Mike is obviously playing stupid, like, "Oh, I didn't know Gus. The drug empire. First, I'm hearing of it."
Yep.
And because I think Mike was hired on by Gus, but like. Gus had it like we're on paper. It was like an official job. Like he was like a bodyguard or something.
Yeah.
Security. So because obviously Gus like did own a legitimate business. So like obviously like the cashier at at Los Polos isn't getting in trouble for the meth empire thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Hank is just like, you strike me as like a former cop. But anyway, they're interrogating him, but it doesn't really go anywhere. But this is like kind of showing that Hank really suspects Mike.
Yeah, and I think this was the scene when we find out like his granddaughter's like, getting like $2 million like a month.
Oh
And
yeah.
they try to use this to get like, Mike to talk, but he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, it's just like, by the way, all that money is gone.
Yeah. Which I really liked, and one thing we should talk about too, Hank's like fully not in the beginning of the season as much, but like towards the end he finally fully is able to walk again. Because before he was using like a walker and stuff. Now he's like, using the cane less and less now and stuff like that.
I do think it's sad that like in the end Mike's granddaughter really didn't get any of his money.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like Mike worked so hard and did so much awful shit and didn't even matter in the end.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Like part of me really wished, like in El Camino, that Jesse, like gave some of the money to like Mike's daughter. I mean Mike's granddaughter.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I feel like this is kind of like it's meant to be like that's why it is like Mike. Crime didn't pay in the end. Mike worked so hard, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really sad. And we'll get into like the next little bit, and when I talk about that more. So Chow, who's like one of like we've seen him before. He's like one of Mike's like top guys, I guess. That like works for Gus.
Well, we had seen him before.
Huh?
We had seen him before when Mike infiltrated that building and like killed a bunch of those guys. He was saving Chow.
Yep. And he calls Mike like panicked. Thinking that the DEA is gonna try to get him to talk, so he doesn't really know what to say. So he calls Mike to come over his house and say something. But when Mike goes over there, we see that it's gonna be a trap because there's a hitman over there ready to shoot him. And it really showed how smart Mike was because he saw right through this and just put like one of his granddaughters like stuffed animals like in the way of the door, which was really clever. And takes the guy gunpoint. We find out.
Oh yeah, in front of like the door hole, so like the guy was looking through.
Yeah. And we find out that he killed Chow.
Yeah, before Mike was like sit next to Chow, and we don't see, we just see the back of Chow's head.
Yeah.
And then it pans back and like he's dead.
Yeah. And we find out that Lydia hired this guy to kill the 11 men, and I think they said he was gonna get more money for killing Mike, so he wanted to get Mike like right away, so that way he can get.
Yeah, it was like I think he said like Mike was like double everyone else.
Yeah. Which
what's up?
I was gonna say not a wise move. He should have just gone through all the 11 guys first and then gone to Mike.
I know, right? Because Mike's probably gonna be the most difficult. I do like how like Mike and like this guy are kind of talking normally.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I'm really sorry, Mike, and he's like, oh, it's okay. Like Mike was pretty understanding of what happened, like, and he really didn't want to kill this guy.
And I think you really get to see like in this season, because without watching Better Call Saul and stuff, like Mike really is like a good guy. He doesn't want to be like he's fine with doing these things, but he's actually like a good dude. Like he didn't want to kill this guy and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say he's a good guy, but like he has his priorities. Like he's loyal to his men.
Yeah.
So like he obviously didn't want to kill this guy, but he's kind of put in a position where he doesn't really have any other choice.
Meanwhile,
but before that, sorry, I do like how he kills him quick. Like Mike is just like, "Are you ready?" And then the guy starts talking, and they just killed him.
Yeah.
And I thought at first like, "Oh damn, Mike's pretty cruel," but it's more like Mike killed him, so like he couldn't see it coming.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, like Walt, Saul, and Jesse are having a meeting about like where they can start like cooking up meth again and stuff. And the one main thing is they don't have any methylamine left, and that's like the main ingredient that they need, so that way they can make the blue meth. Saul even's trying to talk Walt into leaving the business, but Walt has all this debt now with owing Jesse money, and he's out of money, because he had to pay for Ted's stuff. And this ties in because the next scene, um, we Mike goes to Lydia's house while her daughter's there and stuff like that, and is ready to kill her for putting a hit out on him and stuff like that. And the only thing that keeps Mike from doing it is, Mike says that he's pretty much, no one, he's gonna make it look like that she just disappeared, and Lydia doesn't want, her daughter, because we find out she actually has a daughter, to think that she just abandoned her.
Yeah.
So,
but we kind of see that Lydia is kind of a shitty mom.
Yeah.
Like, she's just talking really rudely to the maid, and she's like not interested in what's going on with her daughter at all.
Yep. So, this makes Mike, she talks Mike pretty much into not doing it, and the only reason that he kind of keeps her alive is she's able to be useful because she's able to get methylamine. We find out like she works at a job where she can get the methylamine. And this makes Mike reconsider and actually decides to partner up with Walt and Jesse. And I really like the scene where he calls Walt, because Walt like has like this satisfying like evil look when he calls him and stuff, like really showing that he finally was satisfied that he got what he wanted and stuff like that.
It's kind of like Walt pretty much knew that Mike was going to come around eventually.
Yep. And then the end of the episode pretty much is really kind of messed up. Like, we see Skylar's wicked depressed. She just, like we said, hasn't gotten out of bed, and Walt creepily is just, saying, like, we do what we do pretty much for our family. It doesn't really matter, what it is.
And like, he gets into bed with her and starts kissing her, and, cuts to black. It's kind of implying that Walt kind of,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's makes Walt not a great person.
Nope. So I really, like that scene. And yeah, then the next episode, pretty much, that episode's kind of just, Walt and Jesse, like, getting back up into cooking meth again. Saul is hesitant to have Mike work with them because the last time him and Mike saw each other, he tried to break Mike threatened to break his legs. And I really like to see what Walt says, well, Mike probably just threatened somebody, before breakfast this morning. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, you're not wrong, because that's very Mike.
Yeah. So eventually Saul reluctantly agrees, and the whole episode for a while is kind of about them trying to find like a place to cook. And they don't want to cook at certain various places, like, around food, because obviously meth and food wouldn't really go together. They don't want to cook. Actually, like, they go to the laser tag place, and that just immediately just gets denied. That was pretty damn funny. But eventually they go to a exterminator place, and we just instantly think this is gonna get denied. And I think one thing that main thing is we see Walt's really the one in control, because if everybody else likes it, and Walt doesn't, it doesn't happen pretty much.
Yeah, although to be fair, Walt's giving pretty good points as to why certain things wouldn't work.
Yeah. So he comes up with this plan, and it's actually a pretty genius plan. Like, I'm surprised like no one's thought of this. You want to talk about like what Walt's plan is of how they're gonna cook meth and everything like that?
What was it again? I don't remember.
So he comes up with a plan where they're pretty much gonna like hide in plain sight and pretend to be like
this. Okay, I was you said like get the meth. I was like, wait, what? Are we at the train robbery already? No, it's what they're gonna do is they'll like act as like an exterminating business. They'll have a family leave for like a couple days while they exterminate the house. The thing where they like put the tin over the house and like put fumes into it to get rid of the bugs. But really, they'll be moving all their equipment in. Setting up shop, cooking meth for a while, then, packing up and leaving.
Yep. which this is like, really
Which
great
is pretty
idea.
smart. It keeps them on the move. So like, it's not like a super lab where you just walk into the laundromat and like, oh, there's a super lab right there.
Yeah, and it's very small because no one's really like here. They even say like no one's gonna think to investigate like a house that's been tented because you know, and
Oh, yeah, fumes are pumping out of there all the time. So like,
yeah, one and they just like in the hospital, they have like those plastic like tent thins up so that way like the fumes of like when they bomb the place and stuff wouldn't mess up the meth, which I think is a cool idea. That was actually a Jesse idea too, which is you know really cool. Um, and we also find out that these guys are kind of a shady business anyways because they are thieves. They steal things from people's houses, either themselves or tell people about it. Um, so they can't really be doing that anymore.
yeah, yeah. Mike even says when they first hire them, like, no one can know we were here. These houses that we're doing, they are off limits. Don't rob them. Don't even tell anyone about them.
Yeah.
And I like the thing Mike says about Jesse and Walt. Like, these guys, you'll see them going in and out sometimes. They don't have names to you. You don't talk to them. You don't say hi to them. They are yes, sir, no, sir. And I like the look Jesse and Walt have on that. Because we know Walt is power hungry, but it's kind of, Jesse gives a little smile.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of happy. Like, damn, we're the big shots now.
And here we get the introduction of Todd, which is kind of cool because when Saul's kind of talking about his background and everything like that, and when you originally watch the show, you think he's just going to be like a background character. But he's going to have some importance because they wouldn't take the time to talk about him versus anybody else. So it's kind of cool because it's like it's a Gus thing where like Todd's kind of in the background at first. And then
being like really important.
Yeah, he's like one of the main villains of the later season, and El Camino and the
Flash.
Flash.
Like Jack is like Walt's villain, and like Jet and Todd is Jesse's.
Yep. So it's really cool. One behind the scenes note, we gotta talk about these houses. So obviously, it's a pain in the ass to have to go film while you in and out while a house is tented up. It's a lot of work. So what they would do is they would use two houses. They would use one house when they actually tented, and then they would just find another house to film like inside. So that they didn't want to make that a pain in the ass. So
we don't want to film in a tented house, so we'll just get two houses to film in. That'll work.
I mean, it did.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of montages in this season, and I really like it. Like, this season is probably the best for music. Oh, no, I don't even need to say probably. It is the best, like, musical Breaking Bad season.
Yep.
Yeah,
I feel like
Crystal Blue Persuasion, this one where they're tenting all the houses, just like the prison killing scene.
Yep.
Everything.
Yeah, that's really cool. And obviously we have Baby Blue.
At the very end, yeah.
At the very end. But yeah, this is probably because they really don't do a lot of. I mean, they do a lot of montages, but I don't think they did really any in season 4. I think the only one they really did was the scene with Jesse and Mike. Well, like when Mike took Jesse out to do those pickups, that was like the only montage they did.
Well, I did like the music that played on when Walt and Jesse were destroying the super lab.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like a music montage, but I really liked the music that was playing when Gus came out like with the half blown up face.
I mean, Breaking Bad too, like really wasn't known for really doing much music. It was kind of just all
yeah.
So
that's something actually, I like Breaking Bad more than Red vs. Blue, but the later seasons of Red vs. Blue I feel like used music a lot better than Breaking Bad, except for season 5, because season 5 just again blows everything out of the water.
I know, yeah. So, also though, while all of this is happening, is Skylar's depression is just getting worse. She has a breakdown like right in front of Marie at the car wash and everything, which was really it's really uncomfortable to watch, kind of, if you go back and watch it.
Yeah, she doesn't like cry or anything, but like she's smoking, and then Marie's like, "Oh my god, why would you smoke? You quit."
Yeah.
And then she's just like, "Shut up, shut up, shut up," like that kind of thing. She's just like so angry she lashes out.
And pretty much Walt pretty much makes her look bad again, and pretty much says that like she was having an affair with Ted, and then when she heard that Ted had the accident, it set her into this depression. So, yeah, so pretty much Walt made Skylar look like the bad guy there. I mean, it's not overly important in this episode, but it becomes important in the next one. So figured let's talk about it. But meanwhile, I actually forgot how I was thinking of all of the episodes of season 5, and I forgot how this ended because compared to everything else that happens in season 5, this ending isn't all that memorable when you think about it. But pretty much what happens is Walt and Jesse. Mainly Walt finds out that just because you're in charge doesn't mean you're going to make more money because there's all these expenses that he has to take out. Like, obviously the expenses for Mike's guides, Saul, to, distribution. Because before Gus didn't need to pay it since it was under his business, but they actually have to. So
yeah,
Walt's not.
And they have to pay all the guys that are, like Todd and his guys.
So Walt and Jesse are actually making less money, which is pretty ironic. Than when they were working for Gus,
yeah.
Which
makes sense because Mike is even like Gus didn't build his empire overnight.
Yeah, which so pretty much this can be like getting a paycheck at work and having all these taxes taken out. You don't actually get all that paycheck. So, and the thing that sucks is Walt can't fund for taxes that much because
because excuse me, sir. Why are you charging me so much? I did a legitimate business of cooking crystal meth.
Yeah. It's not gonna fly around here. So that Walt. I feel like too, like in that episode, you knew that Walt was gonna do something about it when it came to the 11 guys, because that's the thing that really pisses him off. And I thought like they were gonna do something earlier where he was gonna eliminate them, but he he does eliminate them, just not for the reason we think. And this brings up the scene where he questions the real reason Gus kills Victor, which we've talked about before, so we don't need to go through that again. And one thing I forgot about in this season is Walt does another manipulation tactic to Jesse. Where because he meets Andrea, at least in Jesse's knowledge of meeting Andrea and Brock, and that's a cool scene. Walt and Brock like seeing each other like for the first time after.
Yeah, like they're sitting on the opposite ends of the couch, and Walt just like they're staring at each other.
Yeah,
very awkward. When you sit next to that kid, you poison like.
Not like anyone else is gonna have. I think that's a conversation only Walt could have with himself. Because
come on, you don't poison kids. I do it all the time. It's not that normal. I don't know what Jesse was so upset about.
I know.
People get so mad at Jesse for what he, for like turning on Walt. And they're like, "Oh my God, Jesse, like such a crybaby." I'm like, you guys do realize Walt tried to, like almost killed, the kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Jesse's fully justified in, freaking out at Walt.
I know, absolutely. So Walt does another manipulation tactic and basically like talks about like a future that him and Andrea could have each other, and Walt's even like saying, you realize you might have to tell her like everything. And obviously this makes Jesse like really nervous because he doesn't want to tell her all the crap that he's done, because he's done worse than since when he dated Jane. He's killed somebody since then. So
killed two people.
Yeah. So we find out that he calls it off, and it was really sad because it was kind of another.
Jesse won't open himself up that much.
Yeah.
I guess that is one problem I had with season 5. It was like Andrea didn't really do anything. She, Jesse broke up with her, and then she dies later on.
Yeah.
That's really it.
I know. Yeah. Which a lot of people like make the question like Jane was the better like character for Jesse because she was actually kind of doing stuff.
Yeah. I like Andrea more, but yeah, Jane was more important to the story.
Yeah. But then we have the episode. This is 1 year after, at least in the Breaking Bad timeline, after the first episode, because it was Walt's birthday, and where did the first episode start off? Walt's birthday. That's actually something we forgot to mention. Actually, doing that sequence when we see Walt in the future, it's like it's his 52nd.
Exactly 1 year from this. Yeah, because he just turned 52.
Yep. So, um, pretty much the big moments to talk about is we find out that Lydia has to give up her guy up that's been like helping give Walt and Jesse the methylamine. So now they're screwed and they basically have no way to get it. So
I also just showed like Lydia is a fucking she sucks because like the police are like questioning her and she's like, okay, I know who it is, and she like points at them, and then she like slowly like hides and like is looking as the guy gets arrested.
Yeah.
So she just threw the guy under the bus,
I know, yeah.
And it's like like that's what makes Lydia so hateable. The season does a very good job making her hateable. Which is at least with like these other guys, at least they kind of like they own up to it. Lydia just like, oh, I'm so like I'm just in over my head. She acts like that, but really she's like she's throwing people under the bus. She's letting Jesse get tortured towards the end.
Yep.
But she's still like, oh, poor me.
She puts her head out on Mike, even though
Mike even says it later on, like this woman deserves to die just as much as any man I've ever known.
And she's a pretty crappy mom, too.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, well, I feel like the bad parenting is slightly worse than, murdering people.
I guess it depends on what the bad parenting would be.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I guess her version of bad parenting isn't worse because she's not, that we know of.
She's not like beating her kid or anything that we know of.
Yeah. But I feel like, that's a good thing because we're meant to hate Lydia. So.
Oh yeah, like this season makes Jack, Lydia, and Todd like the most hateable people.
Like even more.
Great, when they die horribly, it's great to watch.
Even worse than Gus, honestly.
Yeah, Gus. I like Gus. Like, I mean, I knew he was a bad guy, but like, I still loved him.
Yeah.
He was a cool character. I liked him.
I
was actually sad when he died. Well, not sad. I was like, oh damn, he's gone. I liked watching him.
I know. Yeah. Well, now we get to watch him again and.
Better Call Saul. Yeah, and he's pretty great in that too. So looking forward to
that. But later on in the episode, Jesse gets sent down there, and when they go to get the methylamine, she has a certain barrel that she milks. We find out that there was a GPS underneath it, and pretty much what happens is, if wherever it is, the DEA could like track it and see like who's been taking the methylamine. So obviously then they can't take the methylamine now because unless they feel like going to jail. But we'll get there's something that we'll get into that because I want to talk about the big bulk of everything that happens with Walt's birthday. So we're seeing in this episode like Walt's definitely getting into his Eisenberg mode when he goes to get his old car that he's had since like the beginning of the show. He's not even satisfied with that car anymore. He literally like sells that car for $50 when it's probably worth like a lot more. And he buys like a really new expensive car, and he buys Walter Jr. the car he wanted all along. And
like he's just not giving a shit if people like like how did Walt get all this money?
Yep. And Skylar is so afraid of him now and just so depressed. She's not confronting him about it anymore. Which I feel like it's kind of funny because we found that kind of annoying. And now we're kind of like hating Walt for not wanting, which is kind of, that's a show, like that's something we should talk about too. We hated Skylar's character so much, but Walt was becoming kind of like such an asshole and such a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of sucks that like really when Walt was the happiest in his life, it was when everyone else was miserable.
Yeah, I know. Skylar, they do some nice slow build up because Skylar is asking a lot of questions, like sending like Walter Jr. to boarding school, stuff like that. And she even says like, I just thought a new environment would be nice, and Walt's like, well, what's wrong with our environment?
Yeah, Walt's just like cutting to the chase, like, and Skylar's like, I think I said it before, but Walt fully expected some people to come to their house and murder him, you know?
Yeah.
So Skylar's just like, if that's going to happen again one day, and the kids cannot be here for that. And she was right, because, you know, people,
Yeah.
Jack and his gang end up coming to the house and almost killing their baby.
And what really makes her ask this question is she also finds out Walt's like back in the business again too in this episode.
Oh yeah, because he's like giving her money to like laundry.
Yep. So Walt in this is being really creepy too, because he's asking, because it's his birthday's coming up, and he's asking her to make like, it's making it seem like he's asking her to do it, but he's really like demanding her to like throw like a big celebration, which shows like Walt's powers just increasing.
Yeah, he's just like so egotistical and like demanding.
And when he comes back to the house, I mean, there's not like that big celebration that we had like the first episode, which really shows how much their marriage and such has changed now. Like,
honestly, I think it just shows like, you know, because that's what it was. Like, Walt got everything he wanted, but he lost like his family's love.
Yeah.
You know, at the beginning of the series, he was miserable, but like, you know, people loved and respected him. And you know, now look, he has everything he wants, but no one really cared about his birthday. Jesse was the only one who gave a shit.
Yeah. Which ties in later. So, why don't you talk about this so-called birthday bash that Walt has in this next?
Yeah. Walt walks in, which is a parallel to when he walks in the first episode, and also when he walks in later on, you know, the future him. So it's like, you know, like it's the same shot of like Walt on all his birthdays, which I really like. But instead of, you know, big surprise party with all his friends there, no one's really home. Skylar, he's like, "Where's Walter Jr.?" And she's like, "Oh, he's over at his friend's house."
Yeah. Well, he was there, but like, yeah, pretty much. Like like Walter Jr. makes plans this time, the night of it, the day.
Oh yeah, he's like, yeah. And you know, Skylar just throws them together some food, and Junior's like, "Oh, are you not gonna like, you know, do the birthday thing because it's like tradition?"
Yeah.
And you know, Skylar hates it because, like, you know, she wants to just tell Junior like, your father's a monster, but she can't.
I know, yeah. And then Hank and Marie come over, and you know, it's really cool. Like Walt's telling like Hank and Marie like the insane year that he's had, because then literally the next day, like the day after his birthday, is a year since he's been diagnosed. And he just talks about how crazy of a year it's been, which is kind of cool to hear him say that now, because, you know, it's mind blowing to think that was all just a year, like,
I
of
know,
everything.
right?
Because it doesn't feel like that.
Like his life changed more in 1 year than it did in 50.
Yeah. And Skylar's just going to the pool, and she walks into the pool, and basically is about to drown herself. But then Walt jumps in and saves her. And
so obviously, like, everyone's like a little freaked out. Like, okay.
Yeah. There's a behind the scenes about this too. Like when a skirt comes up, it's like really just a netting, and stuff like that. And we find out that Anna Gunn, the actress, is actually like legitimately like, she's not afraid of water, but she doesn't like want it. She's not like much of a swimmer, so this scene was not the easiest thing for her to do. Was like one of the hardest. Which is kind of funny to think that this is her hardest scene, because literally
going to a pool.
Bryan Cranston had to literally like pretend to watch someone overdose. Like,
I know, right? Like Bryan Cranston has to like murder people, and she's just like, I don't want to go in a pool.
I know, yeah. So it's kind of, I was kind of laughing watching that.
Walt had to go in a pool while his hand was on fire.
I know, yeah.
And it wasn't even his hand; it was a fake hand, and he had to like hide it.
Yeah. He could have accidentally lit his real hand on fire by accident, though.
I know, right? I like to imagine like apps, you know, like Walt drags Skylar out of the pool, and she's like, "Oh, that was so scary," and he's like, "Wimp."
Yeah. And then yeah, pretty much you know, it's a pretty shitty birthday, and Marie comes out and is pretty much suggesting, you know, that you guys work things out yourselves and we can take the kids for a while. And Walt just easily sees right through that this is not Marie's idea.
Yeah, like Skylar obviously said something.
And then why don't you talk about the scene that like Walt and Skylar like have together in the bedroom when he confronts her?
Well, Walt is obviously like, "What do you think you're doing?" And like I said before, Skylar is just like, "You're a monster, and I know one day someone, like I said, is like gonna come to this house and murder us, and when that happens, the kids can't be here." And she's just like, "I'm a coward. I can't stop you from doing anything. Um, she's like, I can't keep you out of the house. I can't even keep you out of my bed. But
Yeah.
and I'll be whatever partner you want, your crime partner or like whatever. I just need to buy my time." And he's like, "Till what?" She's like, "Till your cancer comes back."
Yeah.
And I think this really hit Walt hard. Like he's like, yeah, she's just waiting for him to die.
Yeah. Which you forget how great this scene is because of everything the hell that happens later. But this scene is just so great because you just just hearing Skylar say, "I'm waiting for the cancer to come back" is just kind of one of those things. I really like to like Skylar's coming up with all these ideas for ways to like keep the kids out of the house and stuff, and Walt's just shooting them down. And you can make and it was like Walt was more powerful than her. Like literally, like any plan that she came up with, he shot down, and it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, like with so many great moments in the season, it is hard to like forget about the little moments, which is why, it's not this part, but yeah, Walter hugging Jesse, towards the end of season 5, that's one of my favorite moments in Breaking Bad.
Yeah. So then back to Mike and Jesse are discussing what to do about Lydia because Mike thinks that Lydia is the one that planted that like GPS. And I should mention this isn't like a GPS like the GPS like it looks like it's like clay. Which is the best thing I could really to think of describe this. That's like a GPS tracker, which kind of crazy that can be. Just shows you how advanced technology was even back in 2009. Like
Yeah.
that was a freaking GPS tracker. So Mike thinks that Lydia planted it there, so that way, they would get arrested and she would be kind of out of their hair. So he's about to kill her, but Jesse wants to like.
Yeah, he's like, "Mike, don't." And I like what Mike is saying is just he's like, "You know what? This is what I get for being sexist. I should have just killed her." And just like she's a woman, we can't do it. And I like how Mike's just like, "Okay, and you're sexist too."
Yeah, and Walt agrees with Jesse, and but Walt really isn't thinking about the situation obviously because this was all after his birthday, that shitty birthday he had.
Yeah.
And
But I like Jesse's also like making excuses like she's the reason we're getting the methylamine.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure like this is the part where he says nothing stops this train.
yep,
Okay, yeah, because Mike is just like, "Look, we'll take a cut for a little while, but we'll get back." And Walt's like, "Nope."
nothing stops this train from moving along, which you could say was a little hint for the next episode. And then Jesse actually gives Walt the watch that he gets, which is really cool. Like it showed, like Jesse was the only one that cared about his birthday and actually did something for his birthday.
But really, I like how Walt didn't even say thank you. He's just like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, yeah, that's nice."
Yeah, which, and later Walt uses this as kind of like a manipulation tactic on Skylar by saying, Jesse was gonna shoot me, but he changed his mind about me, and you will too. So you could say it's kind of a shitty thing. Like Jesse did this nice thing for Walt, and he just used it as a manipulation tactic.
Exactly. Like that's just kind of shows like everything Walt, even if like the best in things even things with the best intentions, Walt corrupts it.
Yep. And yeah, that's really cool. Then we have the train heist.
Well, I mean, they kidnap Lydia.
I know, but I'm just saying that. I was gonna say the train heist episode.
Oh, I thought you were just skipping to that, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we're skipping a couple things.
So Walt goes to Hank's office and bugs his office so they can listen in on a phone call that him and Lydia are gonna have. They kidnap her. They bring it to like an undisclosed location.
And funny thing, actually, this was the first Breaking Bad scene I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I saw my dad watching the scene like as it aired.
Yep.
So this was like the first Breaking Bad scene I'd ever seen.
Did you remember it?
Obviously, I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah. Did you remember it at all? Like when you were watching it, like for the first time, like actually
Yeah, I'd
watching
forgotten
it?
about it, but then when I saw that scene, I'm like, oh, that's what this is.
I wonder what you would have been thinking about back then, like, because obviously, how old do you think when this show was on?
This was a lot like the first half of the season was made what like a year before the show ended.
Yeah, like 2012.
Yeah, I was probably like 11.
So, um, but yeah, so they kidnap her, and they have her pretty much read the script of like a phone call and to ask about the GPS.
I do like how Mike is like all business. He's just like, if it were up to me, I would have killed you, but my two associates, want to keep you alive.
Yep.
And he's just like, you will do this, or I will shoot you in the head. You will do this, or I will shoot you in the head. And he's like, what will I do? And she's like, you'll shoot me. And he's like, in the head. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Like he's very just like no bullshit.
I like too how she's even said with a gun, and Mike's like, no, with my pistol. Like, yeah, he had to be specific. And pretty much the gist of it is apparently some other like DEA like police force just screwed up and accidentally put him on all the barrels. And
oh no, it's not that they put him on all the barrels. It's they put him on the outside.
Yeah,
like they didn't put him on every barrel. The problem was Mike thought that like Lydia just put it on that one barrel to like trick them and like have them like take business elsewhere because she was worried they were gonna get caught.
Yeah.
But no, it turns out that they just put the GPS on like every couple barrels.
Yep.
To like see if someone would take it, and I like how the guy's explanation is just like, well, I mean, we couldn't put it in the tank because it would have gotten wet.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I think that was their reasoning.
Yeah, I know.
And Hank just hangs up on them mid-sentence, and he's just like, God, idiots.
I know, yeah. Oh, we forgot. This is actually the episode before this, I think. Hank got promoted to like he's like the man in charge of like his.
Oh yeah, like he's now. Like not like captain. He's like he's running the Albuquerque DEA.
Yeah, because the guy
got fired basically. His boss.
Yeah, and this is a cool scene because this affects Hank because it's a big storyline. Like Hank has had so much time invested in this Eisenberg case. That's the only case he really takes charge and has any interest solving. But he gets yelled at throughout this whole like bulk of the season that he has to be focused on other cases. You can't just have a hold on.
The guy's just like, you were in charge of a whole just group of DEA agents. You can't favor that one just because it was yours.
Yeah.
Good thing Hank did, because like this was probably the biggest case ever.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool because we've talked about before, like that, because he was held in this Eisenberg case, it allowed Hank to get promoted. But now it was also a loss for Hank because he couldn't. He had to take his focus, like most of his focus, away and focus on other cases.
Did Hank win or lose? Go see our video on that.
Yep.
Plug promotion.
So then but meanwhile so when Lydia's innocent, they still are thinking about killing her because now they basically have no use for her because we find out that the GPS is like on all of the barrels, so they basically have no means to get methylamine now. So Lydia reveals that there's another way they can get methylamine. And why don't you talk about the other way they can get methylamine? I mean,
rob a train, and that is the most cowboy thing in this show so far, and I love it.
Yep. Which is really cool. Lydia reveals that there's this train that comes that comes into like this Albuquerque dead zone. Like I think they said like once a month that delivers methylamine. I keep meaning every time we do these videos to look up what you can actually use methylamine for, because obviously the main thing they use it for is meth, but there's obviously legal ways to use it because.
Oh yeah. They even say like this was supposed to be shipped off to China, or like it was from China and going to like the U.S. government.
So obviously there's legal things you can do with it. I don't know what they are, and I'm not gonna look it up right now because we're in the middle of doing a video. So.
Yeah, but Mike being Mike is like he's saying no, but he's also being realistic. He's like, it's post 9/11, and we're gonna rob a train, they would immediately, like that's gonna set off so many alarms.
Yep.
And
And
but the lady is like they're in a little like dead zone where like there's no like cellular signals.
but
So, like,
obviously,
just call for help as soon as they rob it.
but obviously it's still a problem because the methylamine, they're gonna notice there's no methylamine, so it's like they're gonna know the train's been robbed anyways.
Yeah, and also they don't want to kill the crewman.
Yep.
But Lydia's just like, "Are you serious? You were about to kill me."
Yeah.
And
Killing
Mike
the crew.
also says like Mike isn't for killing them, but he also just says like there are two kinds of heist: one where they get away with it, and one where they leave witnesses.
Yeah.
Like implying if they leave, they're gonna get caught.
So what happens is Jesse comes up with this genius plan to say, what if we make it look like that the methylamine wasn't stolen? So
Jesse's the MVP for the season.
yeah. So what he comes up with is they dig a hole and they put 2 kegs in it. One where they're gonna fill it with methylamine, and one where they're gonna fill it with water and make it look like that China just screwed up and accidentally sent the one type of methylamine, which is a genius plan. And it makes it look like that the train was never robbed. That China just screwed up, and
yeah, and even really, they're not really at a loss, because they're just like, I think Walt even says like the water is going to end up being like 10% of the of the total batch that that they'll be getting. So they'll be like, oh no, it's like it's like getting a bottle of water, but there's like a little drop of like apple juice in it, and it's like, oh, I mean, it still doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So.
And they explained it. Good thing Todd's there because Todd's basically there to like explain it to the audience.
Yeah, I know.
And they also say they don't need as much water as they're getting methylamine. It's like the water like weighs more or something like that. I don't remember the exact explanation.
So pretty much
that's good because they didn't have to get like a shit ton of water.
So pretty much we even said it in the review. Just go watch this scene because this is a scene you have to see to like really know what not to believe because it's really great. This kind of reminds me of the Death Note scene in a way where they try to catch Mikami. Not Mikami. What was his name?
Oh, Higuchi.
Higuchi, because
right?
it pretty much they make this plan, and even though it goes a little on, it pretty much all goes fully to plan, well up until the end, anyways.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, it's like it's really like we see them plan it out, and then it's just like seeing it unfold,
Yeah, so it's really cool because typically in TV shows, like they'll make this plan, and there's like all these types of twists and turns that make the plan.
Like it'll go wrong, like either immediately or like halfway through.
Yeah, but this time, like, so what happened is one of Saul's guys hits the guy that
isn't cool.
Yeah, they never say his name, so
pretty sure they do.
And he pretends like his truck just broke down. So that way, the guys running the train would be distracted with that, and it goes a little on when Mike's works exactly. A good Samaritan just offers to push him off of the tracks. So pretty much, they still get all the methylamine they need, but it's just like barely. Like literally at the last.
Yeah, like Walt's like keep it going, and Mike's like, "What are you doing? Get out of there!"
Yeah.
And Jesse almost gets run over. Like he's still under the train when they start moving, so he has to just like quickly duck and like hope nothing hits him.
Yeah.
And the train starts moving when Todd is still on it, so Todd has to quickly like climb down and like jump off.
Oh, that must have been scary. And
but they're all like super psyched. They're all like screaming, like high fiving, like yeah, we did it.
But
train robbery, amazing. Scene, just 10 out of 10. Go watch it.
Behind the scenes, I'll say though, it took them 4 days to film this scene, which makes sense because I can imagine,
Oh yeah, it's a lot of like preparing and stuff.
And it's all like one shot, pretty much. Like, and it's like, how long does this scene last? Like, it lasts like a good chunk of the episode. So
yeah, exactly.
And when Jess
was that scene. But they, but I think it's really cool where Walt is talking about like other heists that have been, other train robberies.
Yep.
And because I think Walt says like, if we pull this off, this will be the biggest train robbery in history. And Jesse's like, well, what about Jesse James? Um, and Walt's like going through all like the top, like most highest grossing like train robberies, and how like even if you adjust it for inflation, because obviously money's more valuable now, they will still be like be getting far more money out of this than anyone ever has in history.
That's crazy.
Which is pretty, yeah, and it's like no one, and he even says like no one will ever know.
And they talked about how it. So I'm assuming they said they filmed a movie like in the '60s in the exact same location. I forget the name of it now, but that's what they said. Vince Gilligan, he didn't direct it, but he was there like all 4 days it was shot because he really wanted to see how this was going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jesse was like, almost getting hit by the train, obviously what they did, it was all visual effects. I mean, I feel like that goes without saying.
Oh yeah, no, they're gonna actually. All right, Aaron Paul. For this scene, you're gonna have to stick your arm out onto the track, and we'll just run it over a little bit. You'll be fine. You probably might bleed a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
also, while you're bleeding without your arm, we're gonna have Bryan Cranston and Todd kick the shit out of you a little bit.
Yep.
Give you another concussion.
Yeah. So then, meanwhile, though, earlier in the episode, we saw this kid, and he was just riding his bike, and I really like it because it literally like built up because you knew this was going to be important somehow, and we find out that this kid saw this whole thing happen. So Todd, thinking quickly on his feet, just takes his gun out and kills this kid. And
oh yeah, we saw him at the beginning of the episode too, so that was kind of like foreshadowing for this.
Yeah. Obviously, this breaks Jesse because he loves kids and doesn't want to see them die. So this scene really, Drew Sharp, who's the name of the kid dying, actually changes like the rest of the show pretty much.
Oh yeah, because if it wasn't for this happening, Jesse probably would have kept going with the business as usual.
Yeah, so it was really good. I even love it too. Like we talked about when we did the season 1 overview, like how it's crazy that they were able to do this like perfect. Because in like one of the last episodes of the season when they went to steal methylamine, they were like fucking things up all over the place. Like
yeah, we talked about that in our season 1 overview. It's kind of nice to come back to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like super incompetent and like barely get the barrel out.
Yeah.
And they're caught on camera too, and Hank's even like, oh my god, these guys suck.
Yeah. So I imagine if they were caught on camera for this and Hank had seen this, like he would be like in disbelief that like
yeah, like oh my god, same guys, holy shit. A lot happened in a year.
And I even love it too because before he even does the train robbery, like he just tells Skylar like it's just gonna be like a normal day at the office. Like that was pretty damn great.
Oh yeah, no. Before that, I like the scene where Walt comes home and he's like explaining something to Skylar. He's like, by the way, tell people you're seeing a therapist. First name, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
And she's just like, and she sees dirt on his pants, and she's like, "Oh, are you out burying dead bodies?" And he's just like, "We're robbing a train."
Yeah.
He walks away, and she's just like, "All right then."
Just kind of like
no fucks given for either of them. I love it.
I love it. It's great. So then the next episode, they dispose of all the evidence from killing Drew Sharp.
Which Jesse's not okay with. Like he's just like out back smoking. Like holy shit.
Todd is kind of trying to like make jokes about it, and Jesse just decks him in the face.
Yeah, kind of like lighten the mood. He's just like, man, shit sucks, huh? And Jesse, punches him right in the fucking face, which is pretty great.
Which, because that's something like you don't want to lighten the mood about. Like, there's no way to lighten a mood killing a child. Yeah. Like,
I think that's what people like makes Todd so hateable. He's just like a sociopath. Like he's just so uncaring about all the shit he does.
I think what's messed up when he actually, I forgot about this. When he actually leaves, I feel like they kind of showed because he actually keeps earlier Drew Sharp. Yeah, Drew Sharp actually goes and like he grabs a spider and like puts it in a jar. And Todd actually keeps the spider that he had in the jar. He has like this smile on his face when he leaves. It's kind of messed up.
Yeah, and same spider from El Camino.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I feel like the thing that makes Todd hateable isn't he like he's English. He doesn't kill the kid. He's just like, oh yeah. He's just like so. he says he's sorry, but like he's just super like, oh yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
It's like if you accidentally miss, if you accidentally leave like garbage in your room and you tell your mom like, oh, sorry about that. It's like the exact same.
Yeah. They decided to keep Todd because pretty much they realized they don't want to get rid of him because he's seen so much that he could squeal on him.
Yeah, they're like, well, we need to probably keep paying him to keep quiet.
Yeah.
I do like how before before Todd leaves and they discuss it, Todd is like, by the way, I have connections if you need it. And it's like, what's that about? And Mike is like, it's nothing to worry about. It did come up, but we don't got to worry about them. Foreshadowing, Jack.
Yep.
One of the options was to dispose of Todd. And Jesse was like he didn't want to do it. If I were Jesse, I would have been like, yes, let's do that one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, honestly, that would have been the lesser of two evils.
And it would have saved so much trouble in the long run.
Yeah. So they decided to keep him. I like how Mike goes up to him and confronts him, and he's upset, saying, if you put a gun to a job without my permission, you will be your ass or something.
Yeah, he'll like shove it up his ass, something.
And
I do like how Mike is saying you brought a gun without my permission, but really we all know he's just upset that Todd killed the kid.
Yeah.
He's just finding an excuse to get pissed at him.
Meanwhile, throughout the rest of the episode, we find out that Mike is still being followed and surveillance by the DEA. Because of the bugs, he's able to listen in on Hank and Gomez's conversation and stuff like that. We also
Walt had planted a bug in the DEA office. He was going to Hank and pretending to cry and make Hank comfortable because he's the macho man.
Yeah.
And make Hank want to leave the room for a sec. And Walt then this Walt bugged it under a picture of the family.
Yep. And on his laptop too. And then also Jesse is just absolutely devastated about what happened to Drew. It's on the news. What do you talk about this? When Walt sends him home for the night.
Yeah, so they were just packing up, from the exterminating job, business as usual. Then Jesse quickly turns on, he just turns on the TV, and he sees the news about, Drew Sharp being, he's died at 14, really super young. And Jesse's just like, oh my God. And Walt's saying, it's terrible. I haven't been able to sleep at night, but once we finish all this and cook all that methylamine, we'll have plenty of time to soul search. Let's just do what we can now, and then we'll worry, we'll deal with everything afterwards. And he's like, don't worry, Jesse, I'll clean up, you go home. So Walt's just being super nice. But Jesse goes up to get his stuff, and Walt's packing up, and he starts whistling.
Yeah.
Just another day at the job. And when Jesse comes back down and he hears Walt whistling, I feel like this is what made Jesse want to quit more than anything else.
Yeah, that Walt just kind of didn't really seem like it affected him at all.
Yeah, really, Walt's saying it affected him, but really Walt didn't really give a shit.
So, when Walt comes back, Mike reveals he's out. Which Walt's fine with Mike being out.
He's actually pretty happy about Mike being out, honestly. He's like, well, yeah. That's a real shame, but, what can you do?
It makes sense, too, because Mike being in the business, if he's being followed by the DEA, you're going to get caught. But when Jesse reveals he's out, that's, what really pisses Walt off. And Jesse and Mike reveal they're going to sell their 2/3 of the methylamine to pretty much Goss's competitors, pretty much.
Yeah,
and
we find out his name is Declan.
Which I really like Declan. We don't get to see enough of Declan in Breaking Bad. He's in 2 episodes, I think.
Yeah, really. He shows up here, Walt makes a bitch out of him, and then Jack and his gang kill him later on. He really just shows up. He shows up to show how cool other people are. So
I kind of hope he's in Better Call Saul, because since he knows them, it would be cool to see them in Better Call Saul. So we'll see. But when they go to sell the methylamine, Declan pretty much doesn't want it unless it's all of it, because he wants pretty much to get the blue meth off the street because it's pretty much declining his business sales. So, Jesse comes and tells Walter that, and Walter doesn't want to sell out pretty much, and this is obviously a tie-in because he revealed that he made the same mistake with gray matter because he sold out that business, and it's now like $1 billion business.
Yeah, I do like the way they say that. Like, Walt's like, do you want to guess how much that company's worth? And
Yeah.
Jesse, like, he gets the point Walt's trying to make. He's just like, I don't know, millions. And Walt's like, nope, billions with a B. And Jesse's like, oh, okay, that's a bit. Wow.
So yeah, Walt's feeling like he could have been great, and he sold out pretty much, and he doesn't want to make that same mistake again. And
I do like the point Walt says. Like, he says he checks their stock every week.
Yep.
And like, I think that kind of shows like a little bit of Heisenberg has been in Walt since before the show started.
Yeah. And earlier in the episode, Jesse asked Walt, "Are you in the meth business or the money business?" And then later, Walt answered the question by saying that he's neither. He's in the empire business.
Darth Vader. There you go.
It's a great. Imagine he just invests in a Star Wars movie now. Like,
that'd be great.
Bryan Cranston is the head villain in the next Star Wars movie.
I would love that. Well, I did say that I told you I watched The Mandalorian, which is a Star Wars show, and Gus's actor shows up in that. That's pretty cool.
I wanted. When did that movie come out? Was it before this Breaking Bad, or was it after?
Like way after.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Came out like this year, last year.
Well, that'd be funny if like this movie had come out before that. So that was kind of a reference to that.
Yeah. Although my I know off topic, but my psychology teacher in high school, he had a poster of Walt saying, I'm in the Empire business, and Darth Vader's right behind him.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
And earlier in the episode, Skylar was visiting with Marie, and pretty much she finds out that Walt made her look like the bad person again, so she's like pissed. And when Skylar comes back, Walt has Jesse stay for dinner, and
yeah, the most awkward dinner ever. And I love how Jesse's trying to make small talk, and it's just not working.
Yeah, and it's cool because Jesse's sitting in Walter Jr.'s like usual spot, which
he's sitting in the opposite chair.
Well, you always told me he was in his usual spot, so.
No, I said he's sitting like in the opposite. Like how normally it's Skylar, Walt Jr. like in the chair closest to the living room.
Yep.
And then Jesse was sitting in the chair that was like the farthest from the living room.
Oh yeah.
Kind of show, like it's kind of like, like Jesse's like the other half of Walt Jr.
Yeah.
Like he's on the opposite side.
And when Skylar leaves, Walt even says that this business is all I have left. His wife wants him to die, and he doesn't have his kids right now. So, Walt tries to steal the methylamine, and Mike catches him, so he forces him to stay there all night, so that way he could keep an eye on him. And this is where we made the joke about what did they talk about all that time. So that was just go watch that video for that, because that's hilarious. At least we think so. Anyways, you might not think so. So, yeah, that was pretty. So when Mike leaves, he not handcuffs, but leather straps, zip ties him to the radiator. So Walt pretty much want to talk about the trick that Walt does to get out of it.
I think it's an outlet, right?
Yep.
And he takes some wires from it, and makes it. He burns the zip lock, the zip around his wrist, and he obviously burns himself too. But he just shows how dedicated Walt is. He does that, and immediately he goes over to the water bubbler and rinses his hand.
Goes without saying, but and then behind the scenes, it was his prosthetic hand again. But I feel like that goes without saying, obviously.
If it were Aaron Paul, they'd actually make him burn his hand.
I know, yeah. So good that Aaron Paul didn't have to do that. Meanwhile, like Walt, Saul, pretty much, gets a temporary restraining order on the DEA, because since they're continuously interrogating Mike. But this is just so kind of to buy Mike more time so he can kind of get rid of all the evidence and stuff. Because eventually they're just going to be right back at it. So, and Mike's thinking, I'm just going to sell all this stuff and be out pretty much. And then, when Mike comes in, he sees that the methylamine's gone. So obviously this makes him worried. He holds Walt at gunpoint. I love this one when he's holding Walt at gunpoint because Walt's just completely like relaxed being held at gunpoint this time. And
I think it's the angriest we've seen Mike, even more so than the first episode where he's like driving to go kill Walt.
Yeah.
He just he storms in. Jesse's like, "Hey, wait a minute!" And he shoves Jesse aside, like, move out of my way, shut up."
And we find out that Walt has a plan, and this is where we have the next episode. It starts right with the "Say My Name" speech, and since it's one of your favorite scenes, I'll let you talk about it. So
well, before that, ties into Mike's death. Mike should have just shot Walt right then and there. Shouldn't have let Walt talk.
I know, yeah.
But he chose a half measure.
I know. Again, yeah. You could say that was his last chance too.
Yeah, really. When it came to Walt and Lydia, they were his half measures,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then next episode opens up. They're in the desert, and Declan and his gang are waiting for Mike, Jesse, and Walt. They show up. Oh, and the reason Walt wanted to steal the methylamine is because Jesse and Mike were going to sell Walt's batch part 2 because Declan didn't want Walt's methylamine on the streets anymore.
Yep.
So Walt shows up and he's like, "This is my deal now." And Declan's like, "Who the hell do you think you are?" And Mike and Walt explains that they can have the methylamine and him, and how him working for them would just greatly increase their profits. And I like how the guy's even like, "We should just kill you here then, so that way you're not, a competition."
Yep.
He's just like, "Would you want to live in a world without classic Coke?"
Yeah, that was great.
And so Walt's just saying, "You could kill me, but why would you want to? I can increase your profit so much." And he showed them that you guys have been dyeing your meth blue to look like mine, so you can just have the real thing right now. So give Mike $5 million for bringing us together, so Mike can get it out. And I like how he leaves Jesse out on purpose. He's like, "You have the greatest meth coke in America, the 2 greatest meth cokes in America."
Yep.
And Jesse and Mike are like, ugh. And then, so before I say the last part, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I really like how, Walt, just selling himself, his plan's really good. I love, they point this out, Jesse is seeing, how Walt's manipulating other people, but he can't see himself when he's being manipulated, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it was really a good speech by Walt, which I've talked about at the time. How this was the most Gustavo Fring and one of the most Eisenbergy thins that Walt's been the whole season.
Oh yeah. I would say that gliding overall was his the height of his power, but I would say this is his most Heisenberg moment.
Yeah.
Because of course, it's the part where the guy's like, "Who the hell are you anyway?" And Walt's like, "You know who I am. You all know who I am. I'm the cook.
Yep.
I'm the guy who killed Gus Fring." And the guy that he doesn't believe it. And I do like how we learn everyone thought the cartel killed Gus.
Yeah.
Because of course Gus was a big guy in the underworld, so people are like, "Oh, I guess the cartel got him because Hector blew him up."
Yep.
But Walt's like, "You sure about that?" I like how the guys look to Mike, and Mike's confirming, "Yep, this guy did it."
Yeah,
and,
pretty much.
The guy looks a little scared for a second when it cuts back to him.
Wouldn't you be too?
I know, right? Damn. This guy just blew up a guy in a wheelchair to kill Gus.
Yeah.
And Walt's like, "Yeah, that's right. Say my name." And the guy just says, "You're Heisenberg." You're goddamn right, and I love that.
It's a great scene, and this could be we talk about when Light had his I'm Kira moment at the end of the show. This was Walt's I'm Eisenberg moment right here.
Exactly. They just revel in the fact that they're pieces of shit. We know they're pieces of shit, but we love them anyway.
And when you watch this episode, I feel the writers really did a good job. You had a feeling this was gonna be Mike's last episode because he's out of the business. He says goodbye to Walt, at least we think, for the last time. I even love that they don't really have much of a goodbye. They just both still hate each other.
Yeah.
And they both still make smart remarks to each other. But, I feel like...
I like how Walt's like, no, thank you for the $5 million.
Yep. And I really love, he really showed that he cared about Jesse by saying, you just look out for yourself. And
I do like that, how, Jesse's like, hey, I'll see you around, right? And Mike's like, no, I don't think you will.
Yeah.
And Jesse's, I feel bad for Jesse because he does want to, see Mike and, be friends with him. But Mike's like, I'm out. I don't want to have any connection to any of this.
Yeah.
And this is the last time they see each other, so it's kind of sad.
But, I know. I didn't even think of that.
How Mike says, look out for yourself. And they, shake hands.
When I was watching this episode again, too, I didn't even, think of that. It really hit me, wow, this is the last time him and Mike, see each other.
They do talk briefly on the phone, but this is the last time they see each other.
Yeah.
But I do. This is definitely a scene that is better with Better Call Saul. I won't say specifically, but when you find out more about Mike and his past, it's definitely clear to see he definitely sees Jesse like a son, and he did care about Jesse,
Yeah. So Mike is just getting rid of everything. All his guns and the bugs, or the laptop he was using, he just buries underground and stuff like that. So
before that, you said this is Mike's last episode. I remember when we first watched this, you thought that Mike would, you didn't think Mike would die. You thought he would just retire.
Yeah, not right off into the sunset, but just retire.
I feel like that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, he definitely in a sense though, he definitely rides off into the sunset
and then crashes into a rock.
Yeah, but before any of that even happens though, pretty much, what happens is
right, we got to mention before this, Saul put in a request for a restraining order on the DEA because they had been following him.
Yep.
So and then Saul's like, all right, obviously the restraining order isn't going to go through because it's the DEA.
Yeah.
But it that should keep him off your tail for 24 hours. And Mike's like, plenty of time. So that's when the deal happened and Mike got rid of all the shit because he knew as soon as the restraining order was over, they were gonna search his place.
And they did. They don't find anything, obviously.
Because Mike was smart.
Yeah. Unless he just left. Imagine he forgot. I don't know.
He left a letter in his room being like, "Oh, but I'm Mike and I worked for Gus to in his criminal empire. By the way, Walter is Heisenberg."
Yeah. That'd be hilarious.
For some reason, he just had that on him.
Yep. But anyhow,
I do like how later on Hank gets in trouble for going into the field and searching his house personally.
Yep. So we pretty much talked about that already.
Yeah. I just figured I'd point it out.
So Hank does a loophole to this by actually before I even get to any of that though, let's talk about because there's one big scene that happens before all that when Walt, and I'll talk about it since I'm going to let you talk about Mike's death. Walt and Jesse, Walt's getting ready to get things up and running again, and Jesse comes in, and Walt just won't listen to Jesse. Jesse keeps saying, I want out of the business. And, Walt just isn't listening. When I saw this episode at the time, I made the comparison. It was kind of like, that father that kind of wants to take his son into one direction of a job. And the son wants to do something else, but the father just won't listen.
In this case, though, it's the opposite. Normally, the kid wants to do something bad. Complete opposite here. The kid wants to do good, and the dad's like, no, you will help me do criminal activities.
Kind of watching this scene back, it's really kind of cool because this is Walt's even asking Jesse, what are you going to do after this now, you're just gonna blow all your money on, money and video games and no, not money, but video games and like gold cards and stuff. Like, are you gonna actually do something?
Oh, this scene. Okay, I thought we were talking about the one where Jesse comes in after. Oh no, I guess that's later on.
Yeah.
I was thinking about after Mike died.
Yeah, that's late. That's later.
Yeah, my bad.
But I think it's really cool because uh, it's one of the main themes of El Camino. Like, what is Jesse's life going to be now? After like the being out of the business. So I kind of think like it's really cool to kind of watch that kind of play unfold in just one small scene here. And Jesse kind of finally he doesn't call Walt out on him, but he realized like Walt's just kind of trying to manipulate him to stay into the business, and he pretty much says, "You know what? I'm out of here." And Walt refuses to give him that money because he calls it blood money, which ties into the title of one of the other episodes. So Jesse just leaves. Really like this scene. And I'm surprised it's not a compilation of every time like Walt scream Jesse's name.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah, because he does it a lot in this show.
Yeah. To add to that scene really quick, I like how Walt just does everything to get Jesse to stay. Like he like guilts Jesse. He's like, Walt was like, I know what happened to this boy is killing you, and it's killing me too.
Yeah.
Just like, are you really sure? Is it really though?
He even
Walt had a point here, but he was just like, what Todd did, me and you have done just as worse,
Yeah.
And I like how he points out like Walt didn't just say we killed Crazy 8, we killed Gus. He pointed out the kill that Jesse was the most like traumatic about.
Yep.
It was like all the people that died in our wake, Gale and the rest. And I love this scene because Walt is just fully aware that he's evil,
Yeah.
He's like, if you believe there's a hell, I don't know if you're into that, but we're already pretty much going there.
Yeah. I even love how Walt even says like, I'm not just gonna roll over and go to hell, pretty much. Like.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not gonna roll over and die. I'm gonna, I'm going to hell, but I'm gonna do what I can before then, basically.
Which I really like, because it's good to have that mindset. Because if you already know you're going there, like.
Yeah. Which I think is pretty different than a Light, because I remember the first episode of Ryuk is like, so after you kill all the evil people, you'll be the only evil person left, and Light's like, what are you talking about? I'm an honor student, and I'm going to become the god of the new world. I can't be a bad person.
Yeah.
Like whenever anyone tells Light he's a bad person, he's just like, no, I'm not. I'm the best person.
Yeah. So
it's just kind of funny how similar they are, but they're also very different in that Light, till the very end, believed he was, doing the right thing, and Walt doesn't want to admit it, but he knows what he's doing is wrong.
Yeah. So then it ties into everything with Mike. So throughout the season, we've seen that Mike has had this lawyer. Don't remember his name off the top of my head, but you can easily just go watch. If you should have watched.
McGee.
Huh?
Stabby McGee.
Yeah, we'll call him that. Yep. And he's the one that's like sending the money to all of the 11 people, and
10, but yeah.
Yeah, 10 because Mike.
Or maybe it was 11, and then including the lawyer is 12. I don't know.
Yeah. But pretty much to the mandrill. That's what we'll call them because that's what they are. Hank uses this as a loophole when he gets told that they are not going to spend any more money finding Mike. So he's like, well, the lawyer is technically not Mike. So earlier in the episode, he goes to like the bank or the postal office and sends him all the money. And we see that he's really friendly with like the person at the help desk, which I really like that they showed that because when he goes there like later on in the episode, we see this time like she's being really cold to him. I really liked how they showed that because that was kind of like a little hint that like something was wrong. And he gets caught by Gomez and stuff like that. Like I said, your favorite character again.
R.I.P. Gomez. But before this, Gomez was tracking him or like was tailing him because Hank, because his boss said no more putting more money into like Ermitrud or anything.
Yep.
And Hank was like, it's really weird that all these guys have the same lawyer. So, he got Gomez to follow the lawyer and obviously let here.
Yeah. So when Walt's gonna at the taking the bugs out of Hank's office, he always hear the conversation that the lawyer's just about to squeal, and he calls well, first the lawyer calls Mike, just pretending like something went wrong with the money. So he asks when Mike's location, and we find out Mike's at the. Well, we already knew, but he says he's at the park with his granddaughter. And then Walt calls him, and we find out, reveals to Mike that this is a trap, that the DA is about to catch him. And we talked about this at the time. I still think it's shitty that they were gonna, arrest Mike like right in front of his granddaughter.
I know, right? And
I mean,
I do like Jonathan Bank talked about the senior, the guy who played Mike, and he said he doesn't believe Mike would have left his granddaughter at the park.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, that's just a bit of like creator versus actor. Like, they just have a little different. Yeah. They have a little bit of a different interpretation of the character. I do think that's kind of cool though that he thought that Mike was good enough that like he wouldn't have left his daughter.
Yeah.
And just him thinking that kind of makes me like think a little higher of Mike.
Yeah.
I already liked him, but that made me feel like he is a little bit of a good guy. Not a great guy, but he's heart's in the right place.
But it's just really shitty because like if I to arrest someone like right in front of the granddaughter because now it kind of sucks because like now Mike's daughter's probably gonna think of him as like this criminal because obviously and like he abandoned her at the park, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, and like it does suck because like whenever we see Mike with his granddaughter, like he's a really good grandfather. Like he's really he's very different from how we normally see him. He's very playful and very like a good grandfather, like a normal grandpa you would see.
So you asked if we're gonna see a season of Better Call Saul alongside Breaking Bad. One scene they could do is show Mike like picking up his granddaughter like right before like everything happens, like him dying and stuff. That would be kind of really cool, like to see him.
I would really like that, yeah.
Because obviously we would know they would have to find a way though to make it show like it's that day. But I feel like but I feel like
I love that when a show does that. Yeah, just like we see them like right before something big is about to happen. It's just like, no, don't go.
Yeah,
because we know what's about to happen.
So speaking of that, so Saul realizes this, and Mike needs the bag of money so he can go out on the run. And
by the way, Walt called Mike to let him know. Okay, well, the lawyer called Mike and is like, "Hey, I need to talk with you." And Mike tells him where he's at, and Mike's like, "That's a little suspicious." And then immediately after, Walt calls him and he's like, "Someone flipped a lawyer or something." So that's how Mike knew the police were coming and he bailed.
Yeah.
Like how Mike looked at his granddaughter one last time. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. I just wanted to say.
So Mike needs a bag of money, and Saul can't go because since Saul, has been known to be his attorney, and help Mike on this case, he realizes he's being followed by the DEA, so he can't go and give him the money. So he sends Walt, and this is where you get to talk with Mike's last Breaking Bad scene, anyways.
Yeah. Oh man. Ugh. I was looking forward to this, but also not. Mike is skipping rocks by the river, which we find out is the river that Mike and Jesse have that conversation in El Camino.
Yep.
Walt pulls up, and before when Walt was at the airport, he noticed the gun in Mike's bag of money.
Yeah.
We find out later that when Mike opens it up, that gun is missing. Wonder where it went. Mike wants to take his money and leave, and he's just Walt and Jesse do the same. But Walt doesn't want to leave town because his family's there, but also he's prideful and he doesn't want to admit defeat. And he says, "I want the name of your 10 guys." And Mike is like, "No, I'm not doing that." And he's about to leave. He takes his money, and Walt, so prideful, is just like, "You're welcome. You owe me those names, Mike. You owe me that." And Mike is like, "No, this is all your fault. if it wasn't for you, you could have just, if you knew your place, could have worked for Gus, made as much money as we wanted, and we would have been fine. But you blew it all up because hey, you're a time bomb. Cut back. He blew it up. So Mike just gets in his car and is about to leave, but Walt storms back to his car and storms over to Mike. Mike sees the gun isn't there. Walt shoots him. Mike rides off to the sunset and then crashes into a rock. And I feel like Walt didn't even realize what he'd done until he already did it, because he looked so surprised.
Yeah.
If you want to add in anything, let me know.
So, one thing I can add, because Vince Gilligan asked this question, you've probably seen him ask this question, did Walt go there with the intention of doing this? Because a lot of people say no, but then a lot of people say yes, because why would he take his gun out of his bag?
I didn't know this, actually. I don't know the answer to this.
So it's really tough to say, but I really like it because Vince Gilligan wrote this scene, and I really like this about Vince Gilligan, where he doesn't have a direction. Like when he writes something, you can be kind of interpretation to the audience. So
I do like that.
What do you think, though? Do you think Walt had the intention of shooting Mike, or do you think?
I don't think so. I think he just took the gun, just in case, because I thought maybe he thought that Mike was going to kill him.
Yeah, that could be it.
That there's a point, I do like how he says his opinion on it, but he also says but it's also open to interpretation.
Yep.
There's a director, I can't remember his name, but the guy who directed Inception, and his movies always end with a twist, and he never comments on it because he wants other people to interpret it. And
yep.
I'm to a point, I feel like a director or a creator should give their opinion on it.
Yeah.
But also be but that's not necessarily right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like this is a good middle ground where Vince Gilligan's is this is my opinion, but don't take it as fact,
Absolutely, yeah.
So I do like that about him. Not the shit on the guy who wrote, made Inception. I love that movie. I'm just saying I do think it's okay to voice your opinion. Because he's super I will never comment on anything I make.
Yeah. So at least Vince Gilligan does that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I do like that. Hey, maybe we'll review Inception one day. I don't know if you've seen that movie or not.
It sounds familiar, but I don't know if I've seen it.
Season 9 of RVB is kind of similar to it, so that'd be maybe around that time we do that.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so Walt goes over to the car. Mike isn't there, but there's a trail of blood, and Mike is just sitting on a rock, by the river, staring out. And he doesn't even try to fight, Walt. He has a gun out, but he doesn't try to shoot Walt or anything. He's just staring out in the river.
Yeah.
But Walt takes the gun, and he just says to Mike I just realized I could have got the names from Lydia. I'm sorry, Mike. This could have been avoided if. And Mike just says, "Shut the fuck up and let me die in peace."
Yep.
And Walt does. I feel like that's a moment where Walt was like, "Yeah, I don't need to keep up an act here. I was a piece of shit."
And then
Walt pretty much knew no matter what he said, Mike knew he was a piece of shit. He doesn't have to keep up an act.
So and then it just shows the camera zooming out of Walt and Mike looking out in the water, and you just see Mike's body just fall.
Yeah. And Mike, Jonathan Banks, he didn't know the camera was there.
Yep.
They just had the camera in a couple spots, and then it just Mike, he thought they were gonna he was gonna fall over, and they would zoom in on his face or something.
Yeah.
But no, it's just you see him from a distance. He falls over, and he's you can't see him through the grass.
That's great.
I really
I said, there's a behind the scenes version of this, and you probably know the video I'm talking about that shows it, but I feel like you should definitely just go watch that behind the scenes. It just shows
all the behind the scenes stuff for the show is amazing.
It just really shows the events that were going on the day of Jonathan Banks last Breaking Bad appearance.
I think we're talking about the same video actually.
Yeah, I think we are.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you've seen this video yet, but anyone who hasn't and loves behind the scenes stuff, definitely go see the final shootout, in Felina.
Oh yeah, I definitely have to go see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Just and anyone watching this, it's a great, I'm a super big behind the scenes guy, but I appreciated all that.
I'll definitely be watching it before we make that video. So,
oh, like Breaking Bad has like mini episodes that I didn't know about until like recently. Like we see like Hank and Marie's wedding in one episode, and like in one where like Walt and Badger team up because back in season 1 or season 2, because Walt's neighbor accidentally like took his vacuum with where he hid all of his money.
That's funny.
Just like stupid shit like that. So maybe we'll talk about those one day. But
not anytime soon.
No, because we're gonna be done with Breaking Bad for a while after this.
I might watch them though. I might still watch them though. Like
yeah, you should. You know, we both like Breaking Bad. So
where can you find them online?
Oh yeah, they're just on YouTube. I can send it to you later. But do you both want to talk about Mike's death and the whole half measures thing?
I'll let you go first since it's like one of your favorite scenes.
Yeah. So, you know, when we first were introduced to Mike, you know, he was kind of like a background character, just like Gus's henchman.
Yep.
In the first real scene, we get to know more about his character is the half measure speech. And, you know, it just really is I don't know if they had it planned or not, but that speech where Mike tried to do the right thing as a cop and that lady died because of his inaction. And he says, I made the moral of this story is I took a half measure when I should have gone all the way, and I'll never make that mistake again. And for the most part, Mike did that. He, you know, saw pretty much everything through to the end, except Walt, and that, you know, he had so many chances to just kill Walt, but he didn't because, you know, Walt would like smooth talk him basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you know, he tried to do the right thing in the end, but he took a half measure and it killed him.
And you know, it goes back to that time bomb scene. He just saw that Walt was like you said, like that time bomb just tick, and he didn't want to be around for the boom. And Mike was around for the boom. Like a lot of people say, this is like Walt's point of no return, pretty much, when he killed Mike. Like if you go read the comments of that video, a lot of people said that's the moment they hated Walt was when he killed Mike.
Yeah, Mike was like a fan favorite character. Like people didn't care about Walt killing people until it was a character they like. You know.
I know, yeah.
And the scene just this scene is made so much better by the half measure speech, and the half measure speech is made so much better by this death. You know.
Absolutely. And the time bomb scene is even kind of made better by this.
Oh yeah, the time bomb scene. I didn't even realize that until we started making this video. But yeah, that time bomb scene also really helps. Because Walt went boom, and as I like the way Mike said before he died, like you blew it all up. Yeah. When he's talking about Gus, and I
talked about at the time, Mike died in character. He still died hating Walt. He still and in TV you only get the chance to say one F word. Jonathan Banks got to say that F word.
Yeah,
so
just shut the fuck up. I love that. And there's a video on YouTube called The Journey of Mike Ehrmantraut. And anyone who hasn't seen that, I don't know why you're watching our video if you haven't seen that. But go check it out. It just, it's all, a lot of really good Mike scenes. And, like it shows his death. And like in the background, you're going to hear like Mike talking with his daughter and also like the half measure speech.
Yep.
It's just very good video. Go check it out.
Yeah, it's great. And
I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I really like it.
This scene you also could say too, because kind of ruins Walt and Jesse's friendship, because Jesse has a feeling, that Walt kills Mike pretty much.
Yeah.
Throughout the
and
rest.
Really, it's one of the first times where, like, no matter what Walt says, Jesse knows for a fact Walt killed him, and he.
Yep. So.
It's one of the first times like Walt's manipulation doesn't work.
Yep. So. And think about it too. Mike was never. Mike's character was made. We talked about before because Bob Odenkirk couldn't make the he couldn't make
the episode that day.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy to think he became like this like beloved character and everything like that.
Yeah, just from like an accident,
Yeah.
Same thing with like Jesse in season 1. He was supposed to be killed off, but they kept him going.
And probably Hank in season 3. he was gonna be killed off, and they kept him going. So
Yeah. So it's just funny how like so many like little accidental like ooh we didn't plan much with this, or like oh things just happened to be this way, and it like made the show so much better in the long run for it.
yep. So then we
Because I
have
can't even imagine Breaking Bad without Mike. Sorry, go on.
yeah, no, I can't imagine it either. Especially like because without Mike, well, it like I don't know, like a lot of things would be different.
Yeah, it's cool how for this half of the season, Mike was pretty much just as much the main character as Walt and Jesse.
Yep.
Like no other really like. Can you even think of another character that was like that? Like it's pretty much always been Walt and Jesse, and here it's like no Jesse and Mike.
Yeah, pretty much like he's involved in the train heist. He's involved in everything pretty much. So
yeah.
So then we have the next episode, which is probably me and AJ's favorite episode of the entire show.
Gliding overall, it is 100% my favorite episode.
Yeah.
When we first saw it together, because I knew I wanted to watch this with you, I was like, okay, I love this episode, but like I don't know if it's my favorite. And then and I knew it was coming, the scene where Hank finds out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, never mind. First of all, I'm so glad we're face camming for that, because I loved your face during that.
That's the first time we figured out about screen share on Skype. Was this episode?
Yeah.
Like ever.
And I forgot it was this episode. I thought it was the episode after. And I was like, oh, never mind. This is 100% my favorite episode, because it has two of like my favorite scenes in the whole show.
Yep. So, yeah, let's go through it.
I wish we were recording when we watched that, because God, your face was so great.
If only like copyright wasn't a thing on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh well, what can you do?
So, really this episode is about the height of Eisenberg's power. You see Walt's being petty in the beginning to Jesse because he's wondering what we're going to do about the prison killings and stuff, and
Yeah, the prisoners.
Yeah, with the prisoners, and Walt's just like, you're out of the business, remember? It's just me, or something like that.
Yeah. But before that, I do like how Jesse asks, like, hey, did Mike get away? And Walt just says, he's gone.
Yeah, he's like right in the trunk.
Yeah. I think when we first saw that, I was like, he's closer than you might think, Jesse.
Yep.
Also, it shows how fucked up Todd is, because, like, Walt's, like, explaining it, like, it had to be done, and Todd's like, okay.
Yeah. He
like,
just
he didn't give a shit.
He's just kind of going through the motions. And they Walt meets with Lydia, and he's gonna get the names from Lydia, but Lydia at first doesn't want to give him the names because she's afraid like once she gives him the names, then he's just gonna kill her pretty much because he wouldn't have much use for her anymore.
And I like how. Sorry, were you still talking?
You can go.
Okay. I like Walt kind of does what he did with Jesse at the end of season 4, where like he talks reasonably, but like in reality he's just bullshitting. Like how before he was like talking about how Gus was the one who poisoned Brock and how he would have nothing to gain from poisoning Brock.
Yep.
And here he's like, so I just kill you? Like how does that work? But really he was planning on killing her.
Yeah, I know. Because it's revealed he actually brought the ricin like with him.
He was gonna poison her. Which he should have done that here because it would have saved a lot of trouble in the long run.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I like to we even point this out that like it's kind of funny. Walt shows up in his Eisenberg like attire, like, and it just looks suspicious as hell, kind of in a sense, like, which is pretty funny. But we find out she makes herself useful because she reveals she can pretty much ship Walt's product overseas, and we find out like in the Czech Republic, like there's a higher demand for meth than there is in like the United States.
Which is saying something.
Yeah, and it can make him like a lot of money, and we find out by the way like her and Gus were gonna make this deal, and then she pretty much says then he died, and I feel like at this point she had known that it was Walt that killed Gus.
Yeah, because like the way she says it, like, and she's like, and then someone blew him up.
Yeah. So, Walt and Lydia agree on the deal. She gives them the names, and I feel like here another name gets added because of the lawyer. And um, I actually didn't notice when we watched this at the time that Walt had bought the license, or maybe I did. I just forgot about it because you know, um, but yeah, like I said, should have killed it right here. Would have saved a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Oh, and I think we brought this up before, but like Walt kind of like acts like people he kills. Like he leans on a toilet when he vomits. He starts drinking Mike's drink. I forget who said this, but oh yeah, it was Mike. Mike said at one point like learn to take yes for an answer.
Yep.
And after Walt agrees to do Lydia's deal about going overseas, she keeps trying to like explain it to him because like she thinks that he's like just saying whatever she wants to hear, and then she's gonna kill him anyway.
This reminded me too a lot of the scene of like Walt and Tuco because in like a professional level, because Lydia even says we're gonna make a lot of money together, and Tuco said that to Walt like in the first season.
Yeah, that's cool. So Lydia quotes Tuco and Walt quotes Mike. I think that's pretty great.
Yeah. So maybe like Lydia and Tuco should be getting to have a conversation with each other. They'd be saying that all day.
Yeah, I'm sure they get along great.
Tuco probably beat the crap out of her. Like
probably. That is like total opposite spectrums.
Yeah. So then Walt gets in touch with like Todd's what do they say? It's his uncle, right?
Yeah.
Who we talked about it's implied that the white supremacist. It doesn't outright say it, but it's pretty much.
Yeah, when I first saw this, I didn't catch that. But then I rewatched it with you, and I was like, "Oh, I'm dumb," because they got like Nazi symbols on them and everything.
And you're the one that pointed it out to me, so I didn't really. I don't know if I would have caught it or not. If
I mean, I didn't. But then again, I was like, what, 15 when I first saw this, so
Yeah. And they're trying to go over like how they're gonna do these prison killings. And there's a plot we mentioned at the time. There's a plot hole here, so we get to talk about it. So technically, this show, yes, is filmed in 2012, but it came out in 2012 anyways.
Yeah, but it's chronologically, it's what, like 2009?
Yep. And they mentioned when we got Bin Laden, it wasn't this difficult, and we didn't get Bin Laden until 2011. So
yeah, so plot hole that didn't happen yet.
So the only thing I can think of is it's a huge plot hole, or this takes place in a universe where they did get Bin Laden, but
yeah, like they got Bin Laden a couple years early.
Yeah, so.
God, can we move to that one, please?
Yeah, right. But then pretty much Walt wants these prison killings to take place like in 2 minutes, and it's like impossible because all the guys are in like separate prison.
I think it's 3 separate prisons.
Yep.
I think it's like 3 in each or something, or it's however it adds up, And they all have like different lunches and like like they're all like they're in 3 separate prisons and they're all like different parts of the prison.
Yep. So I'll let you talk about the scene because
it is my 3rd favorite scene in Breaking Bad. And my 2nd favorite scene is at the end of this episode.
Yeah, so
we'll get to that in our top 10 Breaking Bad moments. So Walt says it can be done exactly how I want it. Only question is, are you the guys to do it?
Before that, though, I noticed this episode had a lot of callbacks to like past episodes because here Walt's looking at like the painting that he was looking at when he was in the hospital after getting kidnapped by Tuco. It was in this episode as well. So.
And Walt even points it out. Like I've seen this one before.
Yeah, so I kind of like how this episode had like a lot of callbacks to like past episodes.
Yeah. Oh, and before we get to this scene, it's kind of weird how Jack is introduced. Like Jack is like the villain, but like, is he even really? Like compared to other villains, like he's not like it's not that he's bad. It's just like he's not as important to the plot.
Yeah, like Todd's probably more like the main villain than he is.
Yeah, and even then, he's working alongside Walt for most of it.
Yeah.
Like, Jack isn't even like the villain for like the last 3 episodes.
I think because what happened is Walt became like such a piece of shit. He became like the main villain.
Yeah, really, and I think that's awesome. I love season 5, and I think that's what makes it interesting. It's not really a hero versus villain. It's the main character is the villain.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like Death Note in a way, but like even then you had L.
Yeah.
So it's like the villain is the good guy and the main character is the bad guy. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I like that. It's really interesting the way those 2 shows did that. Anyway, Walt is in his home and he starts the clock the watch that Jesse gives him for 2 minutes, and we get like awesome like Godfather-esque music to a bunch of white supremacist dudes ganging up on like these prisoners and just stabbing the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And it's just I love that, like when super unfitting happy music is like played over really violent shit.
Yeah. Like they take one of the guys and like throw him like down the stairs and he lands on the floor. They burn like one of the main guys we've been seeing that's like out of these 11 guys that we see.
Yeah. Like they like he's in like solitary, so they like squirt like oil on him through the door.
Yep.
And like light him on fire.
And it's just great. There's behind the scenes footage of this too, where they they actually, I mean, really, this was all one prison they used in real life. They didn't go to 3 prisons and it was an abandoned prison, which obviously it's going to be abandoned. They're not going to go into like a legit prison and film this.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's not going to go over well.
Yeah, they just went up to real prisoners and it's just like, here, stab this guy.
Yeah.
We'll reduce your sentence if you do it.
They said one thing that sucked about it was there was no lights really, so they had to like make their own light pretty much. Like had like lights on their cameras and stuff. So that must have been a pain in the ass. So.
Yeah. And the best part of this is just how. By the way, I like how Breaking Bad can only say the F word a couple of times, but it can brutally murder people.
I know, yeah.
And like show all of it. Like I remember you just said the guy got thrown down the stairs. Before they threw him down the stairs, they like stabbed him in the neck.
I know, yeah. So it's kind of weird, like the rules of like shows and stuff like that. Like, okay, so you can't a person can only say the F word once, like the whole season, but you could show this brutal stuff happening here.
Weird comparison, but I remember we reviewed an episode of SpongeBob, but like God forbid SpongeBob swear, but that guy drowned to death and he was shown as a ghost.
Yeah, I still think that's funny. By the way, I know it's unrelated. That like he, one of the guys even said he poisoned our water supplies, burned our crops, and delivered a plague unto our houses. They thought that was more like evil than a guy getting drowned. Like
I know, right? Yeah. So I
mean that's bad, but like
Jesus. So again, the rules for what can and can't be done are a little weird.
Yeah.
God, I love this scene. There are a lot of like music montages in this. This one, not including the end with Walt's death. Yep. This is my favorite one.
I love this too because like it showed how messed up Walt really got. Like in the beginning of the show, he struggled for like 3 episodes to kill Crazy 8, and now he's just killing like 9 men.
Yeah, and the thing is, the messed up part is he's not even taking the time to do it himself. He's just hiring other people to do it while he sits in his living room.
Yeah. And he's reveling in it too, pretty much. Like
that's why I said this is like the height of his power.
And Hank, who's like taking pictures with like it looked like a softball like team there for like some type of charity or something. Like finds out this news like as he's like taking the picture. I feel like too what made this kind of moment more messed up is later that day Walt goes and visit Hank, and I feel like he wanted to kind of like see Hank's misery type of in a way. Like,
and this is a scene where he like steals Mike's drink order.
Yeah.
Like come on, Walt, man. It's killing the guy. That's one thing, but you gotta take his drink order. Oh, and that is like if you brutally murdered me and then afterwards, like you went to McDonald's and got a chocolate shake, which I normally get. It's like that's just like come on. Like I wouldn't be upset if you killing me, but like
yeah. See, he also stole like Gail's coffee maker too. Come on, man. Like
I know, right? Like
uh,
Well, have you no shame?
I know, yeah.
To
That's the
say
most.
after Walt brutally
Honestly, we could say
murdered
what's the
10
most.
people.
What's the most evil thing Walt's done? I think it's stealing Mike's drink water. Come on, man. Like,
Exactly. Come on. Sure, you blew up a nursing home, but like, I mean, who
yeah.
has?
But anyhow,
Yeah. Sorry. But
Hank's talking about too, like how he used to have like this really crappy job, like labeling trees for them to get cut down, and he says he's been thinking about that job a lot more lately because his job it just kind of shows like his job's getting so difficult now and stuff like
yeah, I
that.
think
Like,
I think he even says like that job it was a lot better than chasing down monsters.
yeah. Um,
And I think it cuts from that scene from like Walt sitting on the couch, and then it like he like bends over, and then like it comes back to him like in the yellow jumpsuit, like cooking meth.
which is really cool, and we
Oh
finally
yeah,
get.
Crystal Blue Persuasion is in this episode.
Yep.
Oh my god, this episode has so many of my favorite scenes in it.
Honestly, like this might be one of my favorite because this scene is so great because you really see in like Walt or Eisenberg at the height of his power, like just getting all this money, um, getting it laundered, just him cooking like a bunch. You see like that scene where it just shows like a bunch of like the houses getting tented, and it's great. You really need you really need to see this montage. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, this
Um,
episode is god easily my favorite.
and I really like this because I forgot to mention Todd's also been like cooking with Walt too, which kind of ties in to the future seasons. And meanwhile, like Skylar's at Marie's, and Marie's kind of like, we'll feel like you're enabling you, so why don't you take the kids back? And at this point, Skylar just, and I should mention too, Walt doesn't look like he's having fun in these montages. It looks like he's just kind of going through the motions now.
Yeah, exactly. Like him being in danger all the time. Like he didn't like kind of did. He didn't like having to survive and like barely be killed, but like it also gave him excitement.
Yeah, like
It's like a soldier being on the battlefield, and then going back to normal life. It's like they kind of miss that. Like my dad was overseas, and he says like he kind of misses like the adrenaline it gives you.
this is kind of weird. And this is not at all like I'm going, but like I feel like college, it's still fun, but it's really weird. Like when you don't have the stress of like struggling in the classes, it's not as fun, kind of in a sense.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess it's kind of like nothing to push you. Like you don't want classes that are like you're barely failing. You're failing all of them, but you also don't want it like you're just passing all A's like easily. Like it's not even.
yeah,
You want something to like push you a little bit.
and I feel like that's just kind of life. You want to be pushed in life. Like if you're just going through the motions in life, then you're gonna be pretty bored. And that's kind of what I felt like Walt was going through here.
Yeah. Basically, like his job that excited him so much just became a regular job.
Yeah. So he Skylar comes home and says, because now Skylar, there's nothing really she can say. Actually, I actually didn't break that scene down because I went to. So Marie pretty much wants to bring the kids back, make the family whole again because, they're pretty much being enabled to still have like bad, have a bad relationship. And basically, there's nothing at this point because we find out, which is what I really like about this season. Like time moves quicker because the past like few seasons, time really hasn't been moving all that fast. I mean, we knew time was going to move fairly quickly because based on the beginning.
Yeah, they got to go from like Walt's 51st birthday to 52.
Yeah.
Like from seasons 1 to like beginning of 5 was 1 year, so now they got to go from another year in like in like what like 10, 12 episodes.
Yeah. So, well, like pretty much like.
Well,
Yeah,
they get to like half a year because after Ozymandias it's like 6 months.
Pretty much, yeah. So, there's nothing at this point that Skylar can say at this point. So, she has Walt take a drive with Skylar, which reminded me, obviously, this is like very reminiscent of the scene when Gus tells Walt to take a drive with him and they go to the super lab. So that's very reminiscent of that. and she takes him to the storage unit, and we find out like he's been making so much money that they had to rent a whole storage unit, and there's like a big stack of money, like, and Walt's goal was to make like $733,000, and he's like well surpassed that. Like it's up to the point where you can't even count it anymore. Like,
yeah, I like how she even says like we couldn't launder this with 100 car washes. We couldn't spend this money in 10 lifetimes.
Yeah. So,
and I like how Walt is even like Walt wanted this money, but like seeing it all in front of him, it's like I would be overwhelmed too.
Yeah. So Skylar's like, basically says she wants her life back, and she's asking Walt, how big does this pile have to be, before enough's enough? And if you read because there's a video of this, if you read the YouTube comments, some people say, pretty much until Walt's ego is satisfied. It makes a lot of jokes about Walt's ego when she asked that question.
And look, let's be honest. I think we said this in the review. Walt quit because he was bored.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah. Like, I'm sure this had something to do with it. Like, this was like the final nail in the coffin. But if Walt was still getting a thrill out of cooking meth, he would have kept going.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's funny. One of the comments, too, is this pile of money is still smaller than Walt's ego. That comment.
That's really pretty good.
Yeah. So before he quits, he actually goes to Jesse's house. Do you want to talk about about that?
Yeah, sure. So Walt knocks on Jesse's door. He lets him in, and Jesse's a little like on edge around Walt because he says, you killed those prisoners, and Walt just like it had to be done.
Yeah.
And you kind of see like Jesse like kick away like his bong. So clearly he's been like using drugs again.
Yeah.
Or not his bong. Bong is weed. I'm stupid. Whatever you smoke meth with. So Walt was kind of right in the way that like once Jesse was out of the business, he's gonna go back to using drugs and playing video games. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, you froze for on my screen.
Oh.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So basically, Walt was right about Jesse's going back to drugs and video games. But I like the conversation they have where. Wait, was it the scene where Jesse like confronts Walt about Mike being dead?
That's the next episode.
Oh, okay, my bad. So Walt comes over here with the money. Yeah, okay. So Walt, like they're making small talk, like they talk about that, the 7 days out episode, and they also talk about other stuff that happened, like off screen, like other little adventures they went on.
I wish we had seen this in El Camino.
Yeah, that would have been nice. I do like the diner scene, but like it was a really short scene. I would have liked more.
Yeah.
Like the Todd scenes were so long, and like I get why.
Yeah.
But still, it would have been nice if those were a little shorter and like the Walt scene was a little longer. Even the Mike scene.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a little sad that they got the Mike scene was like right at the beginning and that was it.
I know, yeah. I would have this is getting off track a little bit, but I'll just mention it. I would have had the Mike scene. I mean, I was fine with the Mike scene being at the beginning because it tied into everything. But
yeah,
I wish like
at the beginning, but it would have been nice if they had another one later on.
Yeah. I wish we had like a little more of Walt and a little less Todd. I understand it, I guess, because they wanted to have because there was a lot of footage we didn't see of Jesse actually in what's it called? Being in slavery, I guess.
Yeah, I am glad. I'm not saying take the Todd scenes out entirely because it's like it's good to see like all the shit Jesse went through.
Yeah.
But it's like there's quite a bit of just like just walking around, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Like scenes that could have been like cut shorter. But I mean, we're not talking about El Camino here, but that was just like a little off topic. But that's just something we want to say.
Yep.
El Camino's coming soon, guys. Unless we take another 3-month break.
Nah, we'll definitely do it soon.
Yeah. Uh, um, okay, yeah. So I really like this, scene where it's just like it's really the first time they've had like just like a talk in a long time.
I
Like
know,
that
yeah.
wasn't like business related. They just had like kind of like a father son, just like ramble about the good old days.
I think one thing that really sucks is you could make is even though season 5 they were really close, it really sucks because it's really just Walt manipulating Jesse, so they're really not as close as it's making it out to be.
Yeah, like
Um,
really season two is like the closest they were, and even then, not super great.
yeah. Um,
Um, and then Walt just like, well, I was just in the neighborhood, so I wanted to stop by. And he right before he left, he's like, by the way, I left something for you. And Jesse goes out and he like unzips it. He goes back to his house and he's like up against the wall, like kind of like freaking out, like he just has so much money now.
yep.
It's like it's like when you get your life's goal right just handed to you. Like what do you do?
I know, yeah. Especially too because he literally just went from having nothing to having like everything. Like,
Yeah.
um,
But it's also like Walt put it in his head like blood money.
yeah. And he feels like that it's blood money. So obviously he wanted nothing to do with this money, pretty much. So yeah, I loved it. Um, and then he tells Skylar that he's out of the business, and I really like it because Skylar doesn't think that he's telling the truth. Like she's just kind of think like it's all talk, but when she actually looks at him and sees the expression on his face, she can tell he's being genuine. Um, and like I said, we've talked about it before. Walt's mainly out of the business because he was bored. Like,
Yeah. Oh wait, what's up with Declan? Like Walt gives this big speech about him being Heisenberg, and then like a month later, Walt's like, by the way, I quit.
yeah. Can you imagine what Declan said? Like,
Yeah, he must have been like, what the I gave away $5 million to Mike.
I know, yeah. Imagine what Lydia said too when he quit. Like,
I
well,
know, right? Like they just started working together.
and he's like, "Yeah, I'm out. See you guys. I quit." Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
um,
But to be fair, I guess just Walt was like, "Here, Todd's my replacement."
yeah, it'd be funny if it's funny too because Walt didn't even have to give like a 2 week notice. He just quit. He just up and quit. Like,
I know, right? He's just like, "Fuck you guys." Okay, how different would that scene be if where Walt tells Skylar, "I'm out in 2 weeks" because I gave my notice today.
yeah, right. Like,
That
I
would
know,
be
yeah, that'd be great. Um, I know, yeah. Imagine you just pause. Imagine that was the scene instead. Like he's just like, "I'm out in 2 weeks."
yeah.
If they
Yeah,
ever
like come on, Walt's not a monster. Sure, he kills some prisoners, but like he's not gonna. Come on, what kind of dick just fires on the spot?
yeah, that's great. That'd be great. If they ever made like a parody comedy show of this, that should be the scene. Just says, "Hey, I quit in 2 weeks. I gotta give it a 2 weeks notice." Like,
Yeah, tomorrow. I didn't give it today. I kind of ran out of time, but I will tomorrow.
yeah, and then he forgets to give his notice like the next day. Oh, I forgot to give my notice. Like,
I'll do it tomorrow. Oh wait, no, shit. Tomorrow's Sunday. Ugh, damn it. You know what? I'll get to it when I get to it.
that'd be great. Oh my god. And Bryan Cranston has to be like the main character if it's a comedy because he's done comedy before, so he would
Breaking Bad, but a comedy, I would love it.
yeah.
There's a video on YouTube where it's like, what if Breaking Bad was a sitcom, and I love it. It's just like scenes of Breaking Bad with like like a laugh track in it, and I love it.
Did you ever see Jimmy Fallon like on his show?
I
Like
did. That's a good
did a
one.
parody of it, and it's like actually done very well. Like it's actually like Family Guy tried to do it, and they didn't do their You could tell they didn't do like their research at all about it. It was just really
Yeah, I
bad.
saw clips of that. I was like, they didn't. Did they watch Breaking Bad?
Yeah, like he actually did the parody where it actually like was funny. Like
Yeah,
because
exactly.
yeah,
We did a couple episodes of Family Guy. Not looking forward to the later seasons.
yeah.
If we ever get there, we just finished season 1.
We didn't even finish season 1
Did
yet.
we not? Oh yeah, we didn't do the finale. Oh my
No,
god.
we watched it, never reviewed it though.
Oh my god. Oh
We
well,
gotta
this video's almost 3 hours. We should probably start wrapping this up.
All right, so take us through the ending scene. Was it like one of our favorites? It's definitely in our top 5 like favorite scenes.
Oh, easily. I think it's like my number 2 or 3.
Yeah,
We still have to like change our lists a bit. Refine it. But we get a scene where Junior just strolling, playing with Holly around the poolside. You know, Marie, Hank, Walt, and Skyler all just talking. Just like about stuff, whatever.
We see like the basically like back to like normal. Um, we don't know at this point how much time has passed. We find out in the next episode, but we know like some time has passed at least.
Yeah, yeah. Later in the next episode, we found out it's been a month, but
yeah,
we don't know here. We just know it's been a while. And I like the look Skyler gives to Walt. Like, I think Walt was kind of right. Like, what he said about Skyler. He said like, a guy pointed a gun to my head and forgave me. You'll do the same. Like Skyler, I think, was learning to like, kind of forgive Walt for everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Hank, it's like, hey, I got to use the shitter. He goes into their bathroom and he like pulls out a newspaper from behind the toilet. Doesn't like it. He gets a book. He opens it up, and it's the quote Gail wrote in the book. From the evidence, like Gail's copy, and Walt had the exact same one.
Yep.
Like, to my star WW.
It's to WW, to my other WW, my star, my perfect star. No, it's been a pleasure working with you. From Gail Benecker. And, then it shows that scene, which is like such a famous, like, it's probably one of the best scenes now because of this scene right here. When Hank's trying to figure out like who WW could be. And, Walt says, and he's like, Walter White. And Walt's like, you got me. And I think that
Hank like lift his face up like, and that was your face.
Yep.
Oh, God,
and I remember like how big I reacted. Like, I don't know what I reacted to with more, this or when Light lost his memory, and I didn't know what was happening because.
Oh yeah. It was great because normally you don't normally you're pretty stone faced. Well, not stone faced, but like you don't have like big reactions.
Yeah. So that was great.
I'm the same. I could be watching the most intense stuff. I'd still be like, like.
Yeah, but
I would love it, but I just don't react to it.
But that was like, wow, like, and I really, like I said, I really wish like we could have recorded this because we couldn't record it anyway because I had to share screen. So.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like some people will probably be upset, like, oh my God, Hank, figured out the case on the shitter. But at the same time, it's like, who would have figured that out? Like, who would have thought that's how it? I'm sure people thought that Hank would have figured it out eventually.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone would have thought like something like so small and insignificant would have been what starts everything off.
And I really love it because Walt was so careful that like one careless mistake. Because they actually tied this scene because we see him like in the shower earlier in the episode, and it's on the toilet, and we don't think anything of it, but I really loved it.
Chekhov's gone, really.
Huh?
It's Chekhov's gone, basically.
Yeah.
Where it's like you mention a gun, and then it has to be fired later. If not, there's no point in having the gun.
Absolutely. I really love this scene. And there's a funny story. So I watch a YouTube channel, and people send in like super chat donations and stuff like that via the channel. And one of the names of the channel is called Hank Schrader on the Shitter.
That's pretty great. I love one of the comments for the scene where it's like after the screen goes black, you just hear.
Yeah. Like someone's comments that it was at this moment Hank had watched like the first 4 seasons of Breaking Bad, which it's not quite this moment yet. It's the next episode.
Yeah, that's a pretty great one. Where Hank just like marathons the whole show.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I think it's great just because it's like Walt was in the clear. He had reached the finish line. He was retired. He was out of the business, and then Hank finds out.
I know, and you feel bad for Skylar because her life's finally back together, and now it just completely goes down the shitter.
Yeah. Pun intended. And I do. That is one downside to this. I mean, this is my favorite episode of my favorite season of my favorite show, so I don't want to ask more of it. But I do kind of wish we got to see like Walt being retired a bit more instead of just the one scene.
Yeah.
Kind of showed like Walt was like 100%. Yeah, like he was done.
Yeah. you got to kind of you know, one thing too is Walt kind of brought this upon himself because there was so many times throughout this show he could have quit and been in the clear, but
Well, even then, this probably still would have happened. You know, like he had the book. He wasn't just gonna get rid of the book.
yeah, true.
So like, it's kind of like this was gonna happen one way or another.
Yeah, so and one thing, Gail Benecker got his revenge on Walt and Jesse because you know,
Yeah, he's what led. You know, he's what led Hank to them.
yep. So yeah, this scene's like fantastic. This whole first half of this, and this was obviously like the perfect way, obviously, to end the mid-season finale because you know, it was something everybody had waited for. It wouldn't have made any sense to go on to something else now. Like
Some would say this was the season finale, but they're wrong.
yeah, please stop. Just you know, if you think this is the whole season, then you don't belong in this Breaking Bad universe. You need to
get out. The
yeah.
door's over there. You can leave.
Walt will knock on it and tell you to leave. Like
exactly. Walt's the one who knocks. Yeah, exactly. Oh god, I'm stupid. I'm tired. So we're wrapping this video. Wrapping this video up.
So we gotta grade the whole season.
We do that next video.
Oh yeah, we do that next video. Well, the mid-season finale anyway. This whole first half of the season.
Oh, okay. Well, S tier. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. It's awesome.
I was telling Owen this before, but I don't normally grade things on an S tier. I only go up to like A+. Yeah. But for this, like I have to. You know, like I said, it's my favorite season of my favorite show. It wouldn't be. I wouldn't feel right not giving it an S tier.
Absolutely, it's brilliant. And just so you know, this season's so great. We spent like 2 hours, 41 minutes and counting talking about it. We didn't plan
on class in the morning. Yay, and it's almost midnight. Fuck my life.
We didn't plan on doing it. It just kind of happened. So
okay, I'm gonna watch this video in like 10 years and be like, oh, I remember that.
Yep. So that's pretty much, you know, if YouTube, hopefully YouTube will still be a thing and we can find this video then.
And here's it open. World War III hasn't happened, hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Anything you want to plug up?
Plug your stuff?
Yeah, is there anything you want to plug or promote?
Check out my channel, AJ Talent. I upload occasionally, and by occasionally I mean like once a year.
You haven't done it yet this year, so you have a while.
Yeah,
so.
2020. To be fair, I make ton of videos with you, so I kind of forget that I don't make YouTube videos on my channel.
Yeah. And then obviously you can you know, check out my channels. Obviously this one we're gonna be Saturday or some point in the weekend we're gonna do the second half of the season. I don't know how long that video is probably gonna be like. I don't want that video to be like 3 hours. So I don't. But
well, to be fair, a lot happens in this chunk.
Yeah.
A lot happens in the next chunk, but like it's like the same storyline. You know, there's really only like one storyline going on.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Here you got like, you know, the magnet, the train, the mic, you know, all that shit going on.
And then we're gonna finally review El Camino next week. So
yeah. And tune in to CM Brothers. We're approaching 400 videos. We're gonna review the 3 Japanese Death Note movies.
Yep.
And after that, we'll get back into Red vs. Blue, and we'll review the Recollection trilogy.
And we're gonna on this channel do some movie reviews and yeah. We're not still gonna review Pulp Fiction. We're not gonna tell it here because we want to save it for that video. There's a funny story we have, so make sure you tune into that video for that funny story. And then my Wrestling Fortune 44 channel for all my wrestling videos. And that's pretty much it, guys. We'll talk to you guys later.